hit record.
All right. So
We'll
we're
get into
and we're recording now,
yeah.
everybody. We're live
We're
recording
live,
this
live
now.
to tape.
that's that's one of the jokes I like to pull every now and again. Be like, yes, everybody, we're live here, blah blah blah, in the super secret studio that is my living room. That kind of thing. It
Now we're in the
entertains.
super. Oh God, I'm hot as shit. The super secret studio that they don't know where we're broadcasting from.
Well, I've never told anybody my address,
Okay.
so my living room is still an ethereal place to like 99% of the people that would listen to the show. Now, some of the folks that I know personally that I've had on the show, I've had them in my living room for the show. But
I can't tell you how many people who have been to my house forget how to get to my house and still have to text me. I was like, you do realize your contacts has a thing where you can put an address in that.
yeah, it does. But now that we're here, ladies and gentlemen, this is the next episode of the KAAMP. That is the Knoxville Area Artist Networking podcast or platform. I kind of say that interchangeably, but it's podcast. Um, Today, this evening, right now, live as we speak, I have a gentleman across the room from me that runs his own podcast called the Ramblin' Man Pod, right? The Ramblin' Man
Ramblin'
Pod.
Man, but I just put pod because I couldn't get Ramblin' Man.
Well,
And I'm a social media person, so I got to get consistent.
the SEO is on your tail. So if you will introduce yourself and sort of tell us what your podcast is about, that would be wonderful.
Okay. My name is Jody Collins, and my podcast is called Ramblin' Man. And the elevator pitch or whatever, I always say, I find someone knowledgeable on a topic, and we talk about it, but we can meander and ramble. There we go. Pause for effect. Learned that from my mom. If you listen to my episode.
Yeah.
We can meander and talk. Like the first episode I ever did was with my friend Aaron Donovan. We did it at Wild Love Bakehouse. We went for 3 hours.
Oh, nice.
It was August. I wore shorts in the wintertime. I was dying. But we talked about Tinder. We remote parented a child that their parents weren't paying attention to. So it can just go wherever the hell it takes us.
Yeah, and that's fine because I don't ever try to steer this conversation too damn hard. So one of the questions I'll tell you this. One of the questions I've gotten away from asking is creativity your full-time gig? Like, are you a full-time creative or is that the day job?
Creative in the broadest aspect, yes. So I will say, like right now, I'm just making sure my levels are good. Right now, 95% of my work is working in marketing, SEO, website development, and website building.
I'll tell you it shows because the way you do your thing and the way I do my thing have a very different ethos.
Oh.
I'm pretty laid back and I'm going to put the information out there and we'll see what happens. And you're very
Well, mine, I tell you how the questionnaire came from. I started interviewing people I didn't know. Like if you listen to the early Ramblin' Man, I'm interviewing with friends. Like the episode, not to give too fine a point on when you'll release this, but the episode I released today was with my friend Adam Kennedy. He's been running his own coffee cart for 5 years. It's not just him. He has two partners. He does 98% of the work. It is the bullshittiest of bullshitty. Oh, I'm sorry. Can we curse on that?
Of course.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought.
Listen, I strive to earn the E.
I was going to say, I've listened to a few, and I pretty much remember.
Oh, yeah. Let's
Esther is filthy mouthed. I mean, come on.
Let's get that E.
If we're going to be honest about it, Esther. Man.
Esther, goodness. I had to divert my ears.
I was listening to it, clutching my pearls.
Yes, indeed.
But I interviewed him, and it is the weirdest, rambliest conversation ever. But the questionnaire came from, there was one person I interviewed that every answer was one word. I was like, so this, yada, 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 and you got into this. So what made you, what made you get into that? I liked it.
Right. And I found having a shareable list of questions so people can tune their expectations is very beneficial.
Yeah.
But some people over prepare.
Yeah. Yeah.
and have very well annotated answers in a book that they are ready to spring when you or when you ask the question. I don't have that very often, but I have had it happen.
I will be on a I'm being interviewed on another podcast on Saturday. She pre-sent me questions but like the questions were in like a PDF, but she had her questions in the emails like or things she needed. Like, let me know if any of these questions are not okay to answer. Can you send me a headshot? Can you send me art that we're going to talk about? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
She said, "Are there any questions you're unwilling to answer?" I was like, "I don't even have to look at your list. Ask me whatever the hell you
Right,
want.
yeah.
I'm not going to hold back." So,
Well, I put this whole thing together with the preface that, we can speak freely and I expect you to not bite your tongue. And
Yeah.
if you choose, that's okay.
oh, there are some things as my friend Aaron Don. I like to give full names because one of my friends, Stephanie Romer, said you always say first names and we don't know who the hell you're talking about. So, Aaron Donovan said there are times where you need to be political, and she was like, "Well, you need to shut the hell up or not say the name that you're thinking of."
Right.
And I was like, I have to keep that in mind.
Where was I?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. This is the effects of Rambling Man.
Well, I mean, it happens. Oh, yeah, speak freely, blah, blah, blah.
Daily. So the majority. So I had worked for myself doing a business called Feral Giant for 5.5 years, but the pandemic was super tough. And this Thursday, I think I will hit 1 full year. I work for an insurance company, and I'm branding manager, director of branding, which means I do a crap ton of marketing and SEO and website and all that stuff. Design is a smaller part of what I do there, but I still do it. Like there's a UT job fair tomorrow that one of the kids that we have in our program did something in Word. I was like, no, give me that. And I redid it for him. He's like, that looked really good. I was like, I know.
This is what I do.
I've been doing this which we can get to later or whenever. I've been doing this a very long time. I am an old man. Even though I don't present as old, I am an old man.
Well, it seems as if you have at least one less gray hair in your beard than I do, because I know I only have one, and I haven't spotted yours yet.
Oh, no. They're scattered throughout.
Well, mine is here on my right cheek, about halfway up. It doesn't have a name, but I'm fond of it.
Oh, mine are pure white.
I was in the bathroom at work one day, and I just recoiled from the mirror. Yeah, well, here's my transition to a cotton ball. As my listeners know, I have lots of red hair, but a lot of other folks are ignorant to the fact that I just look like a giant red poofy thing from the shoulders up. So yeah,
But you've kept your hair on top of your head.
Well, I got an undercut, and the top of it's long.
Okay.
Because that's easy to maintain.
So I recently found photos of me when I graduated college, and I was already way back here.
Yeah.
I was already losing hair at 20.
I'd straight shave it.
Oh, that's when
once that started happening, I got no time for the games.
Yeah.
Just give me the razor.
I love having a shaved head.
Well, see, I would happily shave my head. I hate shaving my face, obviously. My poor mother, bless her heart, she got me razors for Christmas this year, and I just looked over at her. I was like, why?
So I will let my beard go really. It never goes down. It goes like, I call it Zachariah Taylor. Like it goes out.
Yeah, mine does the same shit.
And my mom, every once in a while, just be like, honey. So I finally trimmed it, but now you can see where I never shave it.
So I'm not sorry we're in some deep beard talk right now.
Yeah.
But does your beard have a grain? Because mine does.
Not really.
So it's just all out from the face in all the directions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like it'll. Oh no! Here's the weirdest part. There is and I can probably find it. There is a patch. Like, look at this. Like there's a patch that grows that this can touch my chest at times. And
so it's way curlier than everything else around.
And it's just longer. It just keeps growing, and I can't figure it out.
So when I go to the place to get my hair cut and the person's trimming up my beard, I have to remember to tell them that they're not crazy, and it will always look asymmetrical.
Okay.
So the right side of my face grows straight down my cheek to meet my jawline. And the left side of my face goes down the jawline and then across under my chin and meets the hair on the right side of my face and juts out at like a 45-degree angle towards like my right elbow.
I was going to ask, is it what side you sleep on?
I roll over a lot. So
because I saw someone once say that like whichever, there's one of them that grows faster because you don't sleep on it.
If that's the case, I haven't figured it out yet. But I have to warn the people, hey, look, if you're trimming my beard, just understand that it goes like this, and it's always going to look longer here than on the opposite side. So trust me, you're doing a fine job. So it's just been one of those things I've learned about having a beard that I have to tell other people about having a beard.
Yeah. I can't. I tried to get somebody to trim my beard there for a while. I'm trying to figure out because it keeps looking like I'm not hearing myself. And what the hell?
Is your mic dropping out again?
Yeah, it keeps going. Oh, God bless it. I'll fix it in post. Kurt can fix that in post. I have an imaginary editor.
Oh,
but I'm gonna hold this up so I can see it better. Just
an imaginary editor. That's a concept.
Kurt or I can't remember. I've got two names for him.
Well, let's flesh this concept out real quick. What's this person look like?
I see him as a baby face with a good head of hair. Looks like he's still in college.
Okay.
I can't. I'm trying to think of a good an actor that I can give that looks kind of similar. Kind of like a young Kurt Russell. That's probably why I'm calling him Kurt.
A young Kurt Russell. Are we talking like Big Trouble in Little China, or
maybe back to Escape from New York?
Oh, you don't say.
Yeah,
that's a bit more grizzled than I thought.
Yeah,
I was thinking about the one with what's her face.
I mean that age with the
hair. Yeah,
the hair. I think it's the hair I'm thinking of.
Yeah, that's fair. That was a look. That was a very defined look in his career.
Which have you ever seen? God, we are going down a path. Have you ever seen the alternative opening to Escaped from New York?
Yes.
It's amazing.
Both of those movies I think are wonderful, but
oh man, I rewatched Escape from L.A. I was like, oh man, this is
New York. I think the first one is better, but Escape from L.A. was the first one I saw, so it had a special place in my heart. So, man, let's answer this next question two ways. What's a good creative / work day for you, professionally and personally, with your own creative pursuits?
Varied work, because so I've been doing a little backstory. I've been in printing and design since I was 13 years old. So 1992, Fulton High School, vocational school, they had upholstery, woodworking, auto mechanics, all that, but they had a print shop.
Yeah.
And there were only 2 computers in the entire school, and one of them was in print shop.
Nice.
And so I was like, I want to work in computers. I had worked in DOS in middle school and didn't like it because it was too much work, which is hilarious that I work in web and I edit videos, which is a
lot of work.
Jesus. But it was because I started in design so early, and we would like design on the computer, print it out on a laser printer, shoot it with film, develop it, strip it up, burn it into a plate, run it on a press. And we had real clients. One of our real clients was a pager company called Volcom. Huh. So when I see kids wearing Volcom shirts, I laugh my ass off.
Right.
Because I was pretty good at design by the time I got to college, I would teach the other students how to do stuff in because I was working in Photoshop 1. Yeah. It was bundled with a scanner. It was called Photo Photoshop. So I would teach. I went to Mississippi because they had the better and still have the better design program. Shots fired. And I would teach. It was a lot of older students. So I would teach them better how to work on the computer when I was in school and college. So I was good at design, and there were points where I was like, I need to learn marketing because I need to learn how to actually make my design make sense. So I learned marketing and then hit a point where I was like, I need to go back to design, touch base on it. And I just kept doing that. Photography, videography, websites, SEO, all that stuff. And so I got to learn this myriad of work. And so in a day, I love the days when I can write a blog post, that's writing, keyword the shit out of it, SEO. But then also like draw an illustration to go along to correspond to that, where it's just so many pieces, so many facets all coming together to be one piece. I'm like, hell yeah, that's what I did.
Nice.
I did that right.
And that's a professional day, or is that more the personal day?
That is more the professional. I would say personal. I'm about to start. I usually do this project called 36 Days of Type, where I illustrate a different piece of type every day. And I love doing that. It's so free-willed. But the only problem with it, the only reason I would say not for that is because there's days where I'm like, you know what? I'm tired, but I still have to get this done. And I look at it at the end. And, of course, all artists are their own worst critics.
Yeah.
And I look at it later. I was like, that sucks. But I would love to do that again, but I'm not going to because that was what I did on that day.
So to tie back into a little point we made in your episode, some of the things that I would do as a teenager when I got bored and didn't know what to draw, I would just write my name.
Okay.
And do fonts and custom text and stuff. And I don't know how many pages I've just got filled up with my name or somebody else's name and just custom fonts. So if it wasn't something super polarizing, it was like, oh, here's somebody's name, blah, blah, blah.
Well, and it was like growing up reading comics, like seeing all the like bam, pow, all that stuff, learning, making stuff. Here's why this stands out. Then that comes to a big thing with design is like, I'm working on a piece right now that I'm trying to get them to understand. Like, you can't make everything bold.
Nope, you're working on a client.
Yeah. I was like, you're
working with a piece, you're working on a client.
Oh, yeah. I was like, well, if we make everything bold, then nothing is bold.
Yeah, there's no contrast.
There was a point where I worked with a real estate publication, and I can't tell you how many agents were like, make this bold, and make this bold, and make this bold. I was like, you've just negated it being bold. You've got to pick out 3 things, make those bold.
Right.
After that, you're done. Don't do it. So when it comes to personal work, I think it's like there's an art exhibit that I am going to work on sometime. It will be on my goals for this year.
All right.
So when I do it, it's this big project. Any day that I make any headway on that will be a good day.
A good creative day.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want to elaborate on what that is? Or?
Yeah, I've talked about it before. There are a lot of times with my ideas, I'm sure you can relate. There are times where I feel weird. I was like, I have an idea in my head that it may not make sense to anybody else, but I don't care. I have to get it out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So I've had this idea, which I could show you. I've drawn like a rough in Illustrator because I am not a good by hand artist. I am more of an illustrator artist. And even with like a mouse pad, like I don't even use a Cintiq or a Wacom tablet.
I love tablets.
Okay. I can't draw by hand, so it's pointless to me. And but it's called drip, and it's just this pattern that I see in my head, but the drip is going up.
Oh,
So I've got, you can see there's a skateboard right there.
Yeah,
so I'm going to
noticed that earlier.
Paint on that skateboard. I'm thinking... So my idea is 12 to 15 pieces. Every piece is a different media.
Okay.
Like I'm thinking about that, taking that mirror that I found in my closet recently and making that one of the pieces.
Do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
But there's another part of me that's like, I would almost rather get a plain mirror because I think somebody would much rather hang a plain mirror as opposed to something like that.
Put your art on it, and then it's not going to matter anymore.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's me kind of overthinking.
Yeah,
of
bit.
Like, man, nobody's going to want to have this, and I don't want to have this in my house. My goal is to have all of it off.
Right.
I don't want any of the pieces in my house.
I've got too much of my shit laying around the house.
Yeah.
I'll say that right now.
So in the other room, I did one exhibit. I've had a few First Fridays, a few art exhibits, and I did one called Look Up, Look Down. I was on Instagram. I post #cloud porn photos. Because my thought is always, we're surrounded by so much beauty.
Oh, absolutely.
And we just completely
zone it out.
Yeah. And I was telling my buddy, I was like, there are photos on Instagram that you would skip by that it could have been the cover of National Geographic 20 years ago. And we just like, I'm not even going to double tap to like that. And I was like, anytime I saw clouds that hit me or touch me, I would just take a picture of it. And so I did this full series. It's all black and white. but that was the look up part. The other part was I was walking home from a concert, and there used to be a FedEx box in front of where JC Holdway is downtown. And there was an empty pack of cigarettes that when I was going to the show, I noticed them. And when I came back, they were still there. So I took a picture of it, and I used this phrase, somebody done lost their smokes. That's from Friday. Somebody done. Yeah. And so I tagged that, and now I'm up to like 50 of those. And so the look down were all these cigarette packs that I find everywhere. So I still have... That may be one of the pieces I do the drip thing on. It's one of those pieces. So I have a handful. So the funniest thing to me is I did that, and I probably had 12 pieces of each to where I got them printed at F32 Photo. And I was like, hey, can I get some prints done? They're like, yeah, I filled out this form online. And I did it. And I went to pick them up. I was like, hi, I'm here to pick up my prints. And they were like, what's your name? Jody Collins. Like, you're the cigarette guy. And I was like, I am the cigarette guy.
Yes,
I was so excited. And they're like, we've been talking about you for like a week. I was like, yes.
So parallel in my creative expression is that I really enjoy patterns. And
while you talk about that, I'm going to stand up because I want to show you something I haven't.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll elaborate.
You vamp.
I really enjoy patterns in the way that it entertains me to find things that are out of place in the grocery store. Oh, okay. And I say that these are decisions, and mostly of my Snapchat, like I have a Snapchat, I'll post them here. I lost the login to the dedicated Instagram I had for this, so it shall continue on my Instagram, or continue on my Snapchat, but I'll always find the picture. I'll take a picture and I'll say decisions, or I'll say this brand of store, this is where I'm at, decisions. And
decisions were made.
Decisions were made, yes, exactly. And these things entertain me till no end, because in a marketing aspect, these patterns are given thought and energy in all the ways to make your wallet bleed. And I think it's so funny when somebody being human just disrupts this in some manner that no marketing person could have ever.
So what I'm showing them is a pack of condoms on top
of beer. Is that it, or on top of soda?
Oh no, that is beer.
So the pack of skin condoms on top of some shelved beer. But it entertains me to no end to see these things randomized and disorganized in a way that the people that put them there would have never thought this was, So like the picture you showed me with the mango on the shelf next to the can, like that's hilarious. Yeah. So
it's funny that I work in marketing and design, and I love picking up.
Oh, but the pattern breaking is the thing that gets my attention, and then I'm entertained by the polarity of whatever the thing is where it shouldn't be. And I get a little mad when I see people put cold or frozen stuff not back where it's cold or frozen. Yeah. I'm just like, you sons of bitches.
There's a friend of mine, Zach Miles, that works at the... Oh, shit. I maybe should not mention his name. No, he may
allegedly is employed by.
But there's a certain place he works, and I will take pictures of that, and I was in there one time and showed it to him, and it was something that was frozen that was sitting out, and he was like, son of a bitch, we got to throw that away.
Yeah, exactly.
And he was like, damn it. And I was like, oh, shit. I didn't even think about the impact that had.
Right.
Because it's always just funny to me.
Right. Yeah. But they have to go waste control that or whatever it is. But yeah, those things heavily entertain me.
So I got patterns wrong because I keep drawing like patterns like this.
Yeah.
And
kind of a Zentangle thing.
And I co-started this group. I call it the Knoxville Society of Illustrators.
I like it. Sounds
Rachel,
very formal.
With Rachel Travis. That's how I met Esther, the aforementioned Esther. And I can't draw like everybody else in there. Everybody else in there is an amazing illustrator. I can't draw, but I keep having this. This is something I did years ago where I was drawing like a self-portrait, and I did like these patterns to make the beard.
Yeah.
To fill out the beard. And the other night I was like, I need a new project for this year to work on. And I was like, what if I drew all this stuff around and then figured out what the center would look like?
Yeah, go for it.
It started, I got to about right here, and I was like, that kind of looks like a flower. I was like, so I will finish all this out, and then I will go in a different pen and draw the flower, or I'll take this, scan it, put it in Illustrator, and redraw it. That was my other thought.
I'm here for that. The other thing that I think of when I see that particular image is that seems very meditative.
Yeah.
Drawing things like that, in my opinion, are very freeing for the mind. And asking people where the Zen or the flow state is in their workflow is a question that's important to me because it's something that happens in my workflow
Yeah.
and in my creative practice. So I like to poke around and see where that happens or if it happens in other people's creative practices.
It's also, I think my brain goes 5 million miles a minute. So I would be sitting in meetings at work and doodling. And there would be times where it was almost like teacher-student thing where the person leading the meeting would be like, hey, you're not paying attention. What did you just say? I was like, we've got to move this many units by this quarter, and we've got to make this amount of profit on it, and this and this.
Right.
And they've just been like,
all right,
I was like, I need to draw this to hear what you're saying.
Right.
Otherwise,
and then nobody ever asks you sideways again, right? Yeah,
no. Well, it would be funny because it'd be a year or two later, and the new employee would be in there, or new director would be in there, and that would happen. It would just be like, oh,
everybody
shit.
else around knows what's
Yeah,
about
they're
to
just
happen.
like, hold on, what's going to happen?
Yeah. Oh, that's great. But outside of that particular image, do you find Zen or flow state in your creative process?
Kinda.
I
think there's a lot of times where I have a crap ton of ideas, and actually sitting down and zoning out and just working on it is very meditative. But also there's a lot of times, because I've worked with so much distraction over years, to where I'll sit and watch a movie and do stuff like do my 36 days of type or work photos or whatever I need to do, just because I know that it doesn't matter. Like, I can do the two things at once.
Right.
But like, if I have to write, like, I need to turn off podcasts. I need to turn on music with no lyrics. I need to hyper focus on that to get it right, because that's a harder thing for me to do, if that makes sense.
It does. You're not the first person that I've had say, if I'm trying to really focus. I think Esther said that if she's trying to really focus, she just turns on some instrumental music.
Yeah.
And no words, nothing to really pull her attentions away from the thing she's actively trying to focus on, which makes perfect sense. I just can't say I have the same prerogative. So, I mean, and on the KAAMP, this is more of a conversation about, how creativity and its flow out from a person is individual.
I think it's changed over the years. Like, I think it took me until I was like in my mid-30s to call myself an artist.
Did you have a hard time like trying to feel justified with that title, or?
I surrounded myself with a lot of people that were much better than me. And
that felt like you didn't deserve it or earn it or anything like that, right?
Not at all. And also, so here's another fun fact. I am the only artist in my family. Now, my sister can probably claim, but she kind of doodles in her sketchbook. That's not her job. She doesn't. It's something that kind of relaxes her a little bit. I'm the only artist in my family. And I'm the only one earning a living by making art.
Right.
That's a better way to put it. And my dad is a former truck driver. My mom worked for the phone company. My grandfather worked for the railroad. My uncles were both engineers, and then
so a lot of industry technical people
or blue collar jobs.
Yeah.
And so me being a graphic designer,
does that just kind of like twist their brains sometimes when you tell them about it?
They did not understand. If you ask my dad today what I did for a living, he would say, "Oh, he does like food menus and stuff like that." I haven't designed a food menu in 5 years, probably. If I tried to explain branding to him, it would break his brain.
My father is 60 years old, and when I talk to him about working through things by working on a painting, he's just, I don't get it.
But God love them.
Right. Tries to understand.
I think 4 art shows, and they made it to, I think, 3 of those. The one they didn't is I was part of a bigger group, and I only had like a little booth, and I didn't even tell them. But any of the other ones, they've totally been there and supportive. Didn't make sense. Once I got a job, like I said in the other one, my dad and mom were dad more easy to pick on me,
Yeah.
and be a little rough on. Never hit me or anything like that. Never, but was very like, why ain't you got a job, boy? Like that kind of shit. And once I actually earned a living, there was a flip switch on a little bit of respect.
Yeah.
And that's kind of grown over the years. To where we'll be out in public and somebody will start talking to me and it's like, hell, they're talking. Hey, that person talking to him like he knows what the hell he's doing. It's like, yeah, Dad. But then on the flip side, my mom, it's gone the opposite way. Because I'm really good at what I do. Not to be arrogant but I've been doing this 31 years. If I wasn't good at this, I should be an electrician. I should be a plumber. I should be doing something else.
Something else.
I should be working in construction. But every once in a while, my mom will say something like, and I'll be like, I'm like really good in respect. I've won awards, and she's like, "That's adorable, honey."
Oh my God!
Like she is ruthless. Like I'm just her kid. Like at the end of the day,
yeah.
I was like,
true.
I have a award. Oh God, Mom. Okay, I love you too, Mom.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mom.
Thanks.
Although if she heard that, she'd be like, I didn't say. Yeah, you did.
I remember.
You have said adorable on more than one occasion, which is pretty brutal.
Goodness.
But yeah, like painting and stuff. Oh, I was going to go back to like, there were points where, I work on the computer so much where I've tried. I had this idea of like, what I want to do is take watercolors and just throw down color and then let that dry and throw down more color and just do that a few times. And then whatever images I see, draw over that in Indian.
Yeah, yeah.
And I would try that and I I recycled more paper to where I was like, I can't keep doing this because it was so debilitating. I was like, it's not working out. Or I would make one slight mistake and I'd be like, it's done.
Done. It's screwed up.
I have no tattoos because if it's slightly off, I'll see it.
Oh boy, I have tattoos.
Okay.
Not all of them are great.
Okay.
That's something I have to come to terms with.
So that is something. It's not a perfectionism, but I am my own worst critic. I will see the flaws.
And honestly, that particular topic is one that I've had to come to terms with in my own creative expression, but everybody does that differently, and it affects everybody's creative process differently, and how that pins you down or frees you in certain ways is a really enlightening way to peer into someone's brain about how they be creative, because I try just to generally ignore that shit as much as possible, but some people really lean into it and find some insight in it. But I honestly try to just act like it doesn't exist and do whatever I want to
do. Because and I'm surprised we got through our podcast without me mentioning there are 3 names that I joked. I was like, you got to take a shot every time you hear me mention one of 3 names on my podcast.
Well, should I have taken a shot?
No, now? And I haven't mentioned, but I'm about to mention one.
Well, we can rack them up.
Yeah. But it's Kevin Smith, the director.
I'm a huge fan of his.
So he once said this thing about like taking he got bullied a lot because he was fat.
Yeah.
When he was growing up. I got bullied a lot because I was fat. It was brutal. It was, my dad and uncles picking on me. That's one thing. But people saying it and meaning shit was rough. And
being a kid's tough.
It was very bad. And he talked about one of his talks about he would make the joke about himself before they could make the joke about him.
So you're already desensitized to it when they say it, so it doesn't matter anymore.
You're taking the wind out of their sails.
Yeah, and I subscribe to that logic as well, because I would rather make the joke about me before anybody else.
Yeah.
So all the bad shit that you could say, I've already said.
So like when I bought this house, we redid the floors, but there was one spot in one of the bedrooms where you could tell a dog had peed there, and no matter what we did, it's still a dry spot, ironically enough. And when I had a housewarming showing people through, my former boss, and I was like, yeah, and this, and we redid it. Oh, don't pay attention to that. She's like, stop pointing out the flaw.
Right.
Because no one else would see that. I was like, but I see that.
Yeah, but then you brought it to somebody else's attention.
But I want to say it before you can say it.
Right.
Because if you say it, it'll hurt me.
That's the double-edged sword of that particular situation.
So Kevin Smith, he also, for anyone listening, if you YouTube Kevin Smith life as an artist, it's one of the best speeches ever. It's filthy. It's 15 minutes long, but he's talking about finding the why not people in your life as opposed to the why people.
Right, and that's having that vantage is such a luxury.
Yeah.
Because you don't know that's a thing you can look at problems from until you know that's a thing you
Yeah.
can look at problems from. One of the metaphors I use in life is that there are multiple lenses to the problem. Which one works best for you,
Yeah.
or which one is most fruitful? And creativity is a lot the same way. In the larger scheme of things, mathematics and music and science are all the same, or all lenses on the same problem. Each one of them just attacks the issue in a different
Yeah.
way.
But I also look at like in that vein of something he said in that speech was it costs nothing to encourage an artist.
Absolutely not.
So that's like I'm not going to pat myself on the back or anything when it comes to Esther. I'll keep mentioning Esther. Esther is a very talented young woman. And there's part of me, because I grew up with a sister that's 11 and a half years younger than me, that always wants to talk to Esther and say, hey, you need to keep doing this. You're doing a good job. You need to keep reinforcing that because everybody has their down moments. And it's the same thing of, I don't like when I have down moments.
Right.
So I'm going to try and make other people not have down moments. Like,
And you know what? And there are plenty of days where I've been set up in public and not made a sale. But hearing people tell me that they like something is just as enriching as having that money in my pocket.
Yeah.
And sometimes more valuable.
Yeah.
And that's one of the ways life can be really funny.
Yeah.
Because I hope as we sit here that you realize that you are rich in ways that money cannot quantify.
Yeah.
And I am also rich in ways money cannot quantify.
Because you also don't know what somebody else is going through in their financial situation and whether they can afford something or not. Like, especially like going through the pandemic and having a rough time just trying to make ends meet.
Man, everybody had a rough time.
Yeah, and well,
all the normal people had a rough time.
Yeah. And you know, setting up or being somewhere and having somebody enjoy something even though they may not be able to fiscally support you.
But there
are other ways
they
to
were
support.
able to see it and experience it in some way. Maybe they weren't able to take it home, but they still got to experience it.
Well, this is my buddy Adam Kennedy, again, because I have to mention last names all the time.
Well, you've been put on the spot for that.
Yeah. He and I talk about it all the time. It's like, it takes 3 seconds total to go share to stories, click.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like so many people are so targeted or anal or I'm only going to share something that can benefit me. Like, screw you. You don't get to be part of the community at that point.
Well, and then you get all uppity about algorithm this, algorithm that.
Yeah.
But, that's a whole separate can of worms.
Well, yeah, the video I watched today, there's a social media person that she did a 3-step TikTok, which is like 9 minutes long. She took the full 3 minutes for all three. And she was like, Instagram may be done. And we may have to just reckon with that. Because they just kind of screwed things up so much trying to chase the dollars.
Don't even get me started on the steamy pile of shit that Instagram has become lately. And honestly, I won't go further than saying this. I used to really enjoy that platform.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
So now there are alternatives that I use. I post more on Reddit now. I post on Tusky or Mastodon. I post there. There are very few mass media alternatives that have the same reach, but you know what? I like Reddit a lot. I'm on there a lot. I don't mind one bit posted on Reddit.
Here, I'll give you a nickel's worth of free advice that I found out about. This happened about 5 years ago.
Is that a nickel with interest?
Email.
Yeah.
Do email. And do it consistently. And here's what the marketing person said. It's not about making a sale. Because she was talking about more like products, like the jewelry or something. She's like, it's not about making a sale every email you send. It's about 4 months from now, after you've sent that email 4 months in a row, somebody going, wait, I need this. Oh, wait, I get that email. I call it, I may have coined this, so I'm going to say trademark at the end of this, latent marketing. Because I feel like it's just you're doing something You're doing something consistently. and then it will affect you not every time, but on down the line.
Right, and that makes perfect sense in the context of that label. I don't so much have an emailing list, but I have a private or a public Facebook group that I've started up. That
Yeah.
I've and honestly, the way I've seen groups be used on Facebook, let's get some nerdy little SEO chat here real quick. I feel like public and private groups on Facebook are a more direct and consistent way to reach your audience than like a random Facebook post on your personal wall or your page versus an Instagram post. So that's why I started that recently, is I wanted a more consistent pool to post to.
Which is hilarious because like 4 years ago, Facebook tried to get rid of groups. They deleted the app. They deleted all of that. And it was like, now it's like, hell, group usage is through the roof.
Yeah, and I see other artists that are... let's say far more wide reaching than myself, using them to using them effectively.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a way that they post things and instantly get sales. I mean they have a really good engagement with their audience.
Right.
And it's good to see that works for people. It's encouraging.
Yeah.
There's I haven't mentioned a fella in a hot minute, but Rob Mack out of Australia. He's a dot art artist. He makes really large scale mandalas out of dots and brushstrokes.
Oh, okay.
Huge inspiration of mine. Wonderful human being. I would love to fly across the oceans and meet him. I give him a big old hug. Okay. But he operates his Facebook groups in a way that work really well for his engagement of his community, and it's good to see that it works.
I think I'm in more marketing groups. I'm in like 3 or 4 different marketing groups. I get more frustrated with hey, I know this marketing group is focused on this, but why don't you come over and come to my meeting group? I was like, don't do that.
You trying to put me in another circle.
Yeah, don't try to fish people out of my group. And there's one person I'm thinking of in particular that keeps doing that in one meetup group. I'm like, stop doing this. Stop doing this. Stop doing this.
Snooze that person for 30 days.
Which I got to look. I am not the owner of that group, but I may still be a moderator of that group. I may have to.
I will listen. If people in there doing some fuck shit, I will happily report your ass.
But it's also the same thing of like, do that in a more general group. Don't do that in here.
Right. We all know why we're here specifically, because that's the intent of this little gathering.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the weird thing. So the Knoxville Society of Illustrators has just been a private group chat on Instagram forever because we didn't want to leave it open. Because in the beginning we were meeting at Rob and Rachel's studio.
Right.
And now it's like Rachel unfortunately cannot be more involved, so it's back on me. I was like, holy crap, I don't want to be running into something again. I was like, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to make it. And I've been talking to Esther and Rachel and been like, hey, I'm going to make this go public because I'm tired of showing up and it being 2 of us. I was like, I want people to actually show up. And we're going to shift nights so that Wednesday night Knox Draw crowd can potentially come. I was like, I'm going to actually push it out. So I will say,
I miss Knox Draw. It's been a hot minute since I've been. I really enjoy the individuals that run that.
So I should be having them on the podcast soon.
Lola and Jared, or one or the other.
So a little behind the scenes, and I think I told Jared this. I would rather have them separate, and the only reason I say that is because it's 2 episodes of the podcast.
Right. Yeah. And
but I think Jared's pushing more for a group.
Jared was one of my first 5 episodes, and I enjoy him. He's a fun guy.
But a little behind the scenes is I have been on 30 plus nonprofit boards or executive committees. And I used to be communications chair, and then I was president of AIGA Knoxville for 4 years. And that about broke me. Having to shoulder all of that weight, I kind of didn't want to take on Knox Illustrators on my own. But now that it's all me, I'm the kind of person that's like, well, if it's all on me, then I'm either going to completely stop this or I'm going to go.
You're going to ball.
I'm going to Kool-Aid. I'm going to Kool-Aid man through the damn wall. Yeah. Like, I can't. What is it? Ron Swanson said, never half-ass 2 things, whole-ass
one thing, yeah.
One thing.
Yeah, whole-ass one thing.
That's me.
If you whole-ass this one thing, I'll be enthused.
Okay. But yeah, it's, I don't know. It's weird.
It certainly can be. Like once the ball gets kicked and things
Yeah.
roll, it can be strange. Um, for example, like the reason we're having this conversation
Yeah, I was
right
gonna
now.
say I keep trying not to take over the conversation. I'm so used
Shit.
to my episode.
Well, I mean, we're both here doing the same thing. We're just doing it together. I mean, all right. So I'll let you answer this, and then I'll answer this for you since we kind of didn't ask this in the other one.
Okay.
Why did you even start podcasting in the first place?
So I have a good answer. You know what? Like 5 minutes ago, I was like, man, I should have asked him. Like, do you have a pod? Here, everybody's going to listen to this in tandem. Everybody who listens to mine is going to listen to yours. And everybody who's listening to yours is going to listen to mine. I meant to ask you, did you have a guest that is a dream guest? And the Australian guy.
Dream guest. Oh, man, I would love to talk to Rob. I really would. And honestly, Ben Adams was also a dream guest.
I know Ben.
I'm not surprised by this. Not at all. Ben, when I first, when Ben had his life drawing group down at his studio, that period of my life artistically was very, very violent and chaotic in the best way.
Okay.
I was doing all sorts of things, and that little social circle really informed the next like 4 years of my creative life, because that's where I met Lola and Jared. That's where I met a lot of other creative people that I've bounced off of in Knoxville Creative Society over the last, I don't know, 6 years or so. And I've met some people in these social circles that I am still really good friends with, and I am immensely grateful for all the things that came out of this little social interaction with Ben and that social circle in his studio. But you know,
I'm laughing because he would constantly try to get me to come. I'd be like, I can't draw for shit, man.
It didn't matter. It didn't matter.
I know.
It's that you were there and you were trying.
And it's funny that you mentioned that. So the other the Bens, Ben Hubbard, Ben Adams, the Village Marketing Group. So I met them through Twitter, and we used to have a weekly meetup at La Esperanza.
And you know Ben Fields as well, right?
Oh yeah. At Benfield,
the world of Bens in my life is ever increasingly shrinking.
So Ben Fields, Ben Adams, Ben Hubbard, Andrew May, like there's this laundry list of dudes,
and a lot of them named Ben.
Yeah, although there's one guy named Brian. I was like, man, you're close enough. But we would meet at La Esperanza once a week, just to have tacos, and I met that circle, and they were all mostly app and web developers.
Yep.
And so that went on for a long time.
Well, I'm happy that the world is small in this way.
Yeah. Oh, I always joke. So here's a story I didn't tell on the other episode.
So we got some exclusive tie-over content here.
So this goes along with my making friends at cigar people. I'm sure I did not coin this, but I always say it's a Knoxville thing. I feel like anybody you talk to, you can find 1 to 2 steps away from that person.
So the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon scenario is what you're talking about.
But in Knoxville, it's like 1 to 2.
So
what I was going to say is, sorry,
no,
and we'll go back to why I had started podcasting. So keep a pin in whatever you're going to.
Why we started.
I was on the baseball trip. Went to Chicago, went into a cigar shop, and they're like, you can't smoke in here. You have to go sit out on the sidewalk or sit up on the stoop of the building next door. I was like, cool.
The stoop.
So I walk out, and as mentioned in the other one, I grew up being the only white person around. So there was a group of white dudes and a group of black dudes. I went and sat with the group of black dudes. And I'm sitting there, and there's this dude sitting on the stoop, and I'm sitting on a chair, and I like bummed a lighter from somebody else because I didn't bring and a cutter. I didn't bring my gear. And the dude sitting there clocking me on the stoop, he's like, you're not from here. I was like, no, sir.
Oh, shit.
I ain't from here. And he was just like, where are you from? I was like, I'm from Tennessee. He's like, which part of Tennessee? And I was like, East Tennessee. He's like, wait, where in East Tennessee? I was like, Knoxville. He's like, my cousin owns a landscaping company. I was like, oh, you mean Deirdre? And he looked at me. He's like, what the fuck just happened?
The world got real small.
And he was like, what? And I was like, I'm on the business advisory council for the city. I met Deidre for the first time last week. How many female black-owned landscape companies do you think there are? There's the one. It's Deirdre.
Right.
And he was just laughing. But the whole time I sat there, he was like, I don't understand what happened. I was like, dude, it's a Knoxville thing. I can't explain it.
And I wholeheartedly agree, because this town is big enough for you to go do your own thing, but small enough to know a good circle of peers.
It's either the smallest big city in the world or the biggest small town in the world.
I think it's the biggest small town.
Yeah.
I really, really do, because I've never called Knoxville a big city. I've always called it just a big town.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's always the logic that's been in my head about it.
So another PS. So there came a point where the group of white dudes broke up, and one of the dudes came over and he looked at me and he's like, so Tennessee, huh? What you know about moonshine? I was like, well, I flavor my own moonshine. And he looked at me, he's like, what the hell? I was like, dude, I am every stereotype you can ever imagine.
All rolled into one.
And he was just like, really? I was like, dude, I've made like 20-something flavors. I was like, if I drove up here, I'm damn surprised I didn't bring some apple pie with me.
Yeah,
I'll give you some apple pie before you leave.
Much appreciated.
So why I started the podcast.
Yeah, why you started the podcast.
Right after that, so my friend Sean Pointner and Dale Mackey own the Central Collective on Central, which is where Knox Straw is and all that now. So we were sitting up on the deck.
Which is a wonderful deck.
Oh, it's amazing.
I love it.
So we're sitting up there, and it's Sean and this guy, Joachim Schmidt, who I would say have on, but I love you, Joachim, but you're going to clam up. I had an art episode, and I had Sean and Joachim and David Harmon on, and Joachim didn't say anything the entire 4-hour podcast.
Oh, my goodness.
Then the minute it was over,
he started talking.
I was like, you dickhead. But he is an artist, but he also is from Boston, and he used to hang art for rich people, and he also curated a gallery.
Nice.
But he and Sean and I were up there, and we were talking about art, and we sat up there for 6 hours talking about nothing but art. And then the next night, Sean and I are back, and Sean, his buddy Lance Didrick, and I, and Lance goes, I'm thinking about getting into astronomy. And I was like, cool. And we talk about that for a minute, and like 5 minutes later, I was like, holy shit, dude. I thought you said astrology. So the whole time I'm thinking, why the hell are you getting into fucking course?
So was he doing astrophotography or what?
No. Lance was getting his PhD in English at UT. Why he got into astronomy, I still don't know.
Yeah, that's a scholarly jump.
But the next night, or the next day, I was like, I can't keep having these interesting conversations without recording it. Because I had been, so podcasts came into my life when iTunes first came out. A lot of the podcasts were Song of the Day from like KEXP, KCRW. Yeah. And the only one that was long form was Creative Screenwriting Magazine with Jeff Goldsmith. But then I can tell you, I can pinpoint it. I got an iPad, and when I got the iPad, pulled up iTunes, the first image was Mark Maron and Robin Williams, and he had interviewed Robin Williams. His episode like 40-something or 50-something. And I was like, I love Robin Williams.
Oh, that was What the Fuck with Mark Maron?
Yeah,
that's the name of his piece, yeah.
So it's like, I have to listen to that. And so I listened to it, and it was wonderful. And then that is a great episode, because it's like 10 minutes of leading up him going, holy shit, I'm going to go interview Robin Williams. Mm-hmm. And there's all this stuff about him stealing jokes from other people, and just all this crazy stuff. So he was like, what am I going to do with this? And then it goes to him interviewing him, and it's a great interview. But then I went back and listened to every episode of WTF up to that point, and I've take them back. I've missed a few episodes because there have been some people I was like, I don't want to hear him interview this person. They're not a good person. I don't care. But then that got me into listening to Never Not Funny. Jimmy Pardo, second name, second shot. Jimmy Pardo there are three names. Jimmy Pardo, Kevin Smith, and Bert Kreischer. Those are the three.
Huh.
So
that's a mix.
That is a mix. So it got me to listen to all those, and from there, like I listened to Rogan. In the other days, I don't listen to him anymore. I haven't listened to him in 3.5, 4 years. So I think he's a giant.
It's funny how that's a societal marker.
Make sure my mic is.
That's a societal marker nowadays.
I think he's a giant pile of shit that I will not listen to him. Just same thing as I love Chappelle, I won't watch Chappelle, and I'm very stubborn.
Yeah, that's fair.
And with both of them, I would have a hard. God, why does my mic keep cutting? Son of a bitch. I would have a hard time if I ever met either one of them face to face and not calling them a piece of shit to their face. Because they are. They're both pieces of shit. But yes, that is a marker. That's the way where I stand. But I would listen to Rogan or Ari Shaffir.
I like Ari.
And they would talk. Ari kind of did that where he would approach a topic and talk to somebody. And I had those two conversations like, I have too many interesting friends. I've got to do this. And then once I did it, I was like, holy shit. The first time I recorded 3 episodes in one day. And it was 3 hours, 2 hours, and 2.5 hours. And it was Aaron Donovan about mountain biking in the Czech Republic. Amy and Adam Kennedy about they had just gone on a mission trip to Brazil, I think.
Cool.
And then the third one was with Adam talking about friendships in the age of social media.
That's a good one. I like that.
So, and it's just kind of the Mark Maron thing, not missing a Monday. Like, I've posted an episode once every 2 weeks ever since then. It's been 5 years, and I don't say this to brag, it just blows my mind. I just passed like 77,000 downloads.
Nice.
And the only place I ever post it is on my own social media. I'm like, I don't know how I lucked into this. But I think it's just consistency and time.
Like we were talking about earlier, I try to do bi-weekly, but sometimes life gets crazy.
Right.
And I don't have a ton in the can. I don't have a big backlog of files I could just throw out, because that's just kind of the way I go about planning this and making it happen. But there's only been a couple times in the 3 years now that I've been doing this. This episode right now will probably be episode 6 or 7 of season 3, which is the third year I've been doing this. And I've put out 1 episode a month, maybe twice.
Okay.
In the 3 years and a couple months I've been doing this, which I feel really okay with.
I've only missed a Monday because I publish every other Monday. I've only missed a Monday like 3 times.
Well,
and it wasn't my fault. Like one of them was my fault because these are really long episodes, and I went over my limit on Libsyn, and they will not allow you to just pay like $2 more to get more space. So I ended up like, the first is on Wednesday, so I'm going to release this on Wednesday.
And sometimes the bi-weekly, sometimes it's the first and the third weekend.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the second and the fourth. Sometimes it's the first and the fourth. But I generally try to hit 2 a month in some form or fashion.
3 in a month.
Well, I try to just stick to 2.
Oh, okay.
Unless I have something special or I was able to schedule another one extra or something like that. And I've been known to do a bonus episode and just slide them in there sometimes.
Okay. Well, that's what's hindered me on the movie podcast. The second podcast I want to do is I want to release it weekly, but I also want to do a Patreon and have a second episode every week.
Oh, so you trying to do twice the work and get paid half as much?
Yeah. Well, no, like I said, I've already got like 25 episodes recorded.
Well, I mean,
and that one's a lot more focused. Like it's an hour or less, and it's just like, what is your favorite movie? What is your favorite slept-on film? And we will talk through that.
Oh.
But the bonus episode. Boy, you want
to talk about slept-on movies real quick?
I was going to say, but you may have
quick.
to hold on to it to be on an episode. But it's the bonus episode. Originally, I was going to do film commentary with somebody, but trying to get somebody to sit down and
Let's go. I'm here for film commentary. Let's go.
So I may do one of those like a quarter or something.
Can we do the Tim Burton Batman? Can we do it?
Yeah.
Can we do it? All right.
Yeah.
Oh, man, count me so in.
So, but I've thought about it. I was like, man, I don't need to do all that. When I used to show the films, I would do factoids before and after the film. I was like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do movie news. Here's stuff to look out for. Here's a film a week you should watch. And here's, I'm going to just do a bunch of information where it's like 15 to 20 minutes. It's just me talking. I'm going to try to make it as little work as possible, I may actually have to say, hey, guess what? You're going to hear some flubs and some gaps because
Right.
I'm not editing this
Right.
thing.
And like I was talking earlier about the sense of place,
Yeah,
I try not to edit stuff too much. I
me
want
either.
people to hear the flow of the conversation because
Yeah.
some things, sometimes they ebb, sometimes they flow. Some parts are faster with more rapid fire idea
Yeah.
exchange, and some things are a little bit slower moving and really articulate about one thing or the other. And I try not to molest that too much because I, as a listener, know what I enjoy, and I enjoy that.
Yeah.
So I don't want to alter that when I find a piece of media and a conversation that do that. So
Yeah.
I really try, I want things to sound good, but I'm not ever going to chop up the conversation.
Yeah.
And
I try not. Son of a bitch, man. All you're going to hear on this episode is me
cussing at his microphone.
cussing at my microphone that is having some kind of issue. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to, let's see, dear listener at home. Let's see if that helped
Did that
at
fix
all.
anything?
I don't know because I keep futzing with it. Anyway, slept on film.
Slept on film. So we were talking about Kevin Smith, and honestly, I'm a huge fan of the movie Tusk. And I know it is a very polarizing film, and I know it is getting a sequel, but I really enjoy that weird-ass, creepy movie because
So
it's a weird-ass, creepy movie.
I
Go ahead, say it. You hate this movie.
no, I 80% like that movie. So spoiler alert for anybody listening at home.
And this movie's been out for years, y'all. Catch up.
2 slight issues with that film. I don't like that Haley Joel Osment and the woman had an affair. That bothered me for whatever reason. Because it just seemed too like, what are we doing here? Like, what's happening? That bothered me for whatever reason.
Yeah, I mean, it's not necessary to the story.
No. And the other thing is, I think the suit looks stupid.
Of course it does. But I think
everything else is played so seriously.
Well, I also think that Kevin Smith understood the lens of campy that
I
he
guess.
needed.
Yeah.
I feel as if those design decisions for that specific prop were made because that's the aim they were going for.
Yeah.
And also, you know what? As a special effects group of people, I'm sure they appreciated that it didn't have to be too crazy or too perfect or,
I guess.
But I understand that criticism. It's a valid criticism. I kind of agree.
So if we're going in the Kevin Smith oeuvre, because I think
Here we go.
I think Clerks, Chasing Amy, and Dogma already get their flowers. So I would I would never pick one of those 3. For me, it's Red State. Red State
is slept on real hard.
Red State is probably in my top 25 of that 20-year period. Like, because it is ridiculous how good. And he actually I've heard him talk about, because of course I have, the making of that film and how when he was writing the script, anytime he thought he got to a place where somebody could figure out, he went a completely different direction. And I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
Love that. And I love that film. And I've got friends who do not like Kevin Smith films who love that film.
Most of my friends absolutely loathe Tusk. And
Yeah.
and that makes me love it even more.
So I saw Tusk in the theater.
I did too.
Yeah.
And I remember listening to Fat Man on Batman when the idea of Tusk became
Smodcast.
Was it Smodcast?
Yeah.
Okay. So
because it was him and Scott.
But
yeah.
I remember listening to this conversation where he's like, "Oh fuck, I should make that a movie." And
I think I did #Walrus yes. Like I was in it.
So the fact that I was there from beginning to seeing the movie,
Yeah.
that little journey was really cool.
But it's also like his statement about being an artist. Like I quote the making of that film all the time and saying he wanted to make it because he wanted to see it.
Yeah.
He doesn't give a shit if anybody else wants to see it. He's like, I want to make this a thing.
And in my own creative drive, that's why specifically a lot of the jewelry things or ornamental things that I make, I've never seen before. And I want those specific things because I want them and I've never seen them before.
Well, and it's like, so this, not to go back, not to be Saul obsessed, but the drip idea. It's something that was in my head. And I was like, I have to get this the hell out of my head.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't. I was like, I don't give a shit if nobody gets it. I don't give a shit. I don't know that I fully
But at that point, it's not for them. It's for you.
Yes.
And the creative process of getting this from your brain to your fingertips is the part that is important to you.
Yeah.
And that, to me, looking at people's creative expressions, That's the friction I want to explore, not so much I've shared it with people and this is what they think or
Yeah.
react to it. Because I come at, I try to imagine if I was the person trying to produce these works of art, what would be the frictions or the sticking points or the workflows that I would use to do this thing, and what would be in my head if I was doing the thing. So I try to put myself in the artist's shoes sometimes, and I totally understand what it's like to have an idea beating on the front of your eyebrows to like get the hell out of your brain and filter itself down through your fingertips. And that whole scenario is in my creative work, and exploring other people's creativity is really the interesting part.
And it's the weird thing of, like, I've had a few times this happen, like the cigarette packs, the look up, look down thing. There was one of my buddies, Tommy, who's an incredible illustrator, Tommy Smith, King Metal Tommy on Instagram, although he never draws anymore, and it drives me bonkers. Tommy, if you're listening, please draw more. But he, at one point, we were out having beers, and he's like, dude, the cigarette packs, I absolutely love it. Every time you post one, and that's why I keep posting them. And then another guy, like I did that 36 days of type, and I was like, this is just an exploration to get me better at Illustrator, more comfortable on the fly, and more comfortable doing things quickly. I like doing things efficiently. And all of a sudden, he was this other guy, Amos Oakes, who runs whatever CTV is called now. It's called like Knoxville Community Media. And he's an artist, a painter, an artist himself. And he was leaving our group one night, and he was like, hey, man, those pieces, the type, I really like that. If you ever do an exhibit or ever print those and sell those, please tell me. Because I would like to have one. And I was like, oh shit, I've just been doing this stupid thing for myself.
Right, yeah.
And I was like, and that's all I need to hear. I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep doing this because he liked it.
Yeah.
That's all I need.
To go one beyond that, sometimes my friends or people that follow me on Snapchat will be out and about and see something at the grocery store and be like, haha, decisions, and send me the thing. And I'm just like, thank you so much.
So I have so many of those. I'm going to do a guest post on my Instagram where it's like, these are all for my friends.
I take user submitted photos.
In fact, same thing. Zach sent me something the other day where it was like a DVD or a CD sitting out in the parking lot. I was like, oh, this is beautiful. So I did the cigarette packs. I do the decisions are made, but I've also done, like, when I see bottles or anything left out in public, I'll just be like, somebody lost their Gatorade bottle. I'll post those too, but I number those ones different. But yeah,
if I see specifically fast food trash, I'll be like, hey, Wendy's, come get your shit. Or, hey, McDonald's, get your shit together.
So here's a fun project that Pointer and I were talking about. There was one point, he's a photographer. He's a Pulitzer-nominated photographer. He's awesome. Great dude. He was wanting to do a fast food series where he would go to a fast food restaurant and get an entire, I think I'm remembering this correctly, get an entire meal, photograph it, and then eat everything, and the remainder of the trash, take a photo of that.
I'm here for that.
And that led to, so I haven't had fast food in 18 years. So there was one night while we were chatting, should have recorded this, where we were pulling together if I decided tomorrow I'm going to do fast food, what would I get? Because I wouldn't go to one place. I would go to multiple places.
Oh, you would have to go full on, right?
Oh, yeah. I would go crazy. And then it delved into, if I ate as many crystals as I used to, would my stomach explode out of my asshole? I think it would. Because I have not had crystals in so long, my stomach would not know how to handle it.
Man, it's been, I'm trying to think last time I had a crystal. It's probably been 2.5 months since I had a crystal sandwich.
I miss it. I do miss it. I just can't do it. I can't. Stubborn.
Well, I mean, that's, I don't eat out a whole lot, but, my work meals can get kind of shitty sometimes.
So I do say, like, when I went to Atlanta, I was posting photos, and one of my buddies commented and said, are you on, like, statins or something? And I was like, no, I eat baked chicken, corn, and peas 99 times out of 100 so that I can eat crazy, stupid shit. Whenever else.
Yeah.
So even, like, one of my favorite places is Jackie's Dream and also Inskip Grill. and both of them are crazy food. And I'm also on the menu at both of those. I love that's one of my proudest accomplishments.
That you're on the menu at Jackie's Dream
and Skip Grill.
Okay, so it has to be both of them.
No, I am on both.
No, I mean the you're proud of this is because it's both of them.
Because it's both of them. Well, then I'm on any menu, but the fact that I'm on both but Jackie, like there was one year where my mom said, for Christmas, please don't go to Jackie's Dream as much as you normally do.
Oh my God!
Because I would go 3 times in like 48 hours. Like I would go a lot. So in Skip Grill, so hers, I discovered Jackie when she'd been open like a week. I somehow just saw a picture on Instagram and I went.
Gotta go.
And I went, and she used to have this sign, handwritten sign that said like small dark, small white, large white. And I walked in with people I worked with.
Please tell me you went in there for a large white.
So I went in there. No. I pointed at it and I looked at the people I worked with. I was like, look, I'm already on the menu. And so Miss Jackie stopped counting at 400 people that I had sent in there.
Oh my God.
Or that had seen my photos and went, or I had asked to go with me. She was like, you are almost a co-owner at this point. So there was a point where I redid her menu, and jokingly, for the large white, I put in parentheses, or I put the Jody, large white. And I was like, I did that. It's a joke. She was like, oh, no, I'm keeping it. She was like, you should actually have a plaque at one of the tables because
right.
you've done so much. So same thing, Justin at Inskip Grill. Justin Wiseman, because I can't. She's Miss Jackie. Justin Wiseman. I found him like a week into being open, and I went, and people wanted to go with me, and I sent people. Yeah. And he was like, I don't know who the hell you are, but I'm about to say a Knoxville
I'm about to give you a sandwich.
I'm about to give you a Knoxville thing, though. So there was one point, like a year and a half in, he was like, man, I had like 5 different types of pork. And I was like, what kind of sandwich can I make? What can I call? Oh, I'm calling this my business name, Feral Giant. He's like, this is the Feral Giant. If anybody can appreciate this, it's Jody. And I was like, that's the greatest thing ever. That he was like, this is a monstrosity of a sandwich. Feral Giant. Like before he finished. So Justin, like a year and a half in, he was like, are you Big Jody that used to live on Washington Pike? I was like, I think there's only one Big Jody in this town.
Right,
so yeah. And he was like,
it's a big town, not a small city. There's one Big Jody.
Yeah. And he was like, oh shit. He was like, I know who you are. It turns out my best friend in high school, he used to date my best friend's sister. And we went the only time, God, everything is a story with me. The only time I ever got grounded in my life was the summer between high school and college. And
that's late to get grounded.
Yeah, I was a good kid. I was shit scared of my dad. And I was also just a good kid. That I was also working at the ballparks, going to school, taking care of my little sister. Like I didn't have time to fuck around. Yeah. No. Oh, I had plenty of time, and those stories are not going to be public. But I thought we were going to Gallenberg. My best friend Robbie, his sister Heather, Justin, and I. Robbie and Heather Lopusser. I'm not going to not mention last names. It's just a thing at this point. I thought we were going to Gallenberg. Turns out they wanted to go to Opryland. And I did not tell my parents. And I got to Opryland, and...
yeah, that's not Gallenberg at all.
No. And we were coming back, and he broke down in like Cookville or Crossville. And I had to call my parents, and it was when caller ID had just come out. My dad's like, why does it say out of town, out of whatever it said? And I was like, holy shit. I was like, I don't know.
Well, Dad, here's the story.
No, I didn't tell him. And then I finally, the next morning, they were like, oh, it's going to take another couple of days. I was like, I'm getting on a bus. I got on a bus, went to Greyhound. My dad and little sister picked me up. My dad did not say a word. I was like, oh, shit. So I get home. I walk up the stairs, and my mom had followed me up. She opened the door without knocking. She's like, so we know you're in Nashville. Robbie's mom called and told us you had broken down. And so here's the deal. You're grounded for a month. And that's how it is. And I was like, shit. And this was like the last month before college started.
All right. So you were about to go do the thing.
No, and I still live with my parents through college. So that didn't really, but I missed seeing the Mavericks at the Tennessee Theater. And I was like, no. I will take another 2 weeks of being grounded. They're like, nope. I was like, damn it, I've been a good kid. This is the first.
Right. This is some bullshit, Mom.
So then The first, I can always remember this, August 20th. The first night that was the end of my grounding, I had tickets to see Chris Rock at the Tennessee Theater. And so I went, and that's where I registered to vote. Because I was still 17. And as I'm walking out the door, my mom was like, hold on. We got to talk about this. I was like, no, we do not. And I took off. And I picked up Robbie, and we went and saw Chris Rock.
There you go.
But yeah, so Justin is the boyfriend of Heather that got my ass grounded.
Damn it, Justin.
So that's a very much a Knoxville thing. And it's like, of course he is. Of course, 20 years later, I run into this dude.
Right. Oh, goodness.
God, sorry. I've taken over.
All is well. Don't you dare complain.
Yeah.
So what are some inspirations artistically, stylistically, that twofold question,
Okay.
that inspire you in general, and then the inspirations that sort of filter into your work?
I hate to be lame and say traveling.
Why is that lame? Tell me right now, why is that lame?
Because it feels like it's what everybody else says. But I think...
oh, no, life experience.
Yeah. But it's the same thing of like, so when I worked for PetSafe for a bunch of years, and I got to afford the opportunity to go to conferences. So like I said, I grew up super poor. We only went to Myrtle Beach. I didn't get to travel as a kid. I've only been outside this country for 2 hours.
Oh, side note, other poverty vacation, Mammoth Cave, Kentucky.
Oh, I forgot. Every once in a while, we would get to go to Pigeon Forge in Gatlinburg for like 3 days. Yeah. Like that was a big deal when we got to do both in the same year. Like when my parents got their tax return, we would go to Ruby Tuesday at Easttown Mall.
Oh, man.
That was eating high on the hog.
Shitting in high cotton.
Yeah. So there finally hit a point where when I was an adult where I was like, I'm going to leave. Because I stayed here to go to college.
You realized that you could do this, and it's a normal thing.
And then when I went to PetSafe, they afforded me the opportunity to go to conferences. And it was like going and hearing other professionals speak and being around other creatives and professionals. It was like, I came back. I was like, we're changing everything. Like I came to where my boss was like, you got to calm down. I was like, the fuck I do? We're changing everything. This is how we're doing things from here on out. And it was that. And I think it's also when you travel, you're not thinking about work. You're not thinking about any of that shit.
Your mind is open to more.
No.
Yeah.
And I try to go to museums as much as humanly possible. How stuff fits into my work, I can't tell you. I have a folder in my Dropbox with thousands of screenshots. And I'll see something. Like I saw something the other day that it was a neon sign. And I was like, I really like the type on the motel. I bet I can make a font of that type.
Yeah.
I was like, that doesn't feel like I'm stealing. It's just like, it's this weird thick ass font that you don't see that often. And I was like, I'm going to eventually build that. I'm going to use that for something. So
you're going to do the letters or the letters and 0 through 9?
Yeah, I would have to do everything.
You would have to?
Yeah.
And
no ampersand. Like there were certain key elements, but I would just build it in Illustrator and just use it for me. I wouldn't build it as a typeface for anybody else.
Right.
This is just for me. And because I've also tried that before and trying to figure out letter spacing is an absolute nightmare. So that's how stuff filters into my work. It's stuff I see to where I may look at, like, I'll use this as an example. Like that sticker, that Draplin sticker.
Yeah.
And I may be like, man, I really like how that book looks. How can I do something that looks like that but is not just ripping that off?
Right, yeah.
So I'll find like one little element. I found one to where it was the same thing with type, not to hark on type, but it was like a photo somebody had taken of a person and there was a shadow and light, and that's why I liked it. But then I saw like ghost lettering of like a sign, and it was in Spanish. I was like, I like how that type looks. I'm going to screen grab this because I like how that looks. That's a cool looking S or something. So that's how stuff filters in my work. I see stuff. I'm like, man, I really like that idea. How can I hate people who copy, but I don't mind taking a little bit and twisting it, remixing it.
Yeah.
Because I've got a book in there that I got when I was in college called Everything Reverberates.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing is original. Everything reverberates. Just do something. Make it yours. Put your own stank on it. That's some quality advice right there.
You know, there's a gentleman on the old YouTubes. His name is Mark Rebier.
Okay.
And when he's done doing his thing on the internet, he'll tell you to keep pooping on them.
Keep pooping on.
Keep pooping on them, and that's like his put stank on it. You know, keep pooping on them.
Okay.
And I'm very entertained by telling that to people.
Well, and so I've also come to realize something. God, I always forget this quote, and if I can pull up this quote by the time
I have faith that you can do this.
Let's see how quick I can pull up this quote.
I'm not going to time you.
Holy crap! I just realized my phone is on like 5%.
I'm still not going to time you
as I'm doing this. This is going to sound like a humble brag or sound like I'm putting
whatever.
on airs.
Fuck it. We know the context.
Yeah.
Everybody listening is aware of why you're telling us this.
This kind of goes back to the Kevin Smith thing. It costs nothing to be a decent person.
True that.
So when I see people being shitty for no reason I found the quote. Look how quick that was.
Hey.
Boom. But it's when I see people being shitty or being like, I'm only going to do stuff that benefits me, it drives me bonkers. Because I was like, you're not being a part of the community at large.
Right.
And fuck you, you don't get to be. It's the people who bitch about Knoxville and they're like, well, I don't like Knoxville because of this. It's like, then you need to do two things. You got three options here. You can help change that thing, you can leave, or you can shut the fuck up. There is no continuing to bitch. You got those. And I gave that speech to my little sister. She was complaining about something. I was like, change it or leave. That's the only two options you got. You don't get to just keep bitching.
Read the quote and then I'll
the quote is from Hasib Qureshi. And I was raising hell about somebody. And he said, I both love and hate that you don't allow people to fuck up. You hold them accountable. That's the quote.
Yeah,
and I was
that.
bitching about somebody being shitty. And I was like, nah, you don't get to be shitty around me.
Right.
And I want more people to just be decent because it doesn't cost anything to be decent.
Well, that didn't totally negate the thing I want to say. I saw a gentleman on Reddit.
Yeah.
In the Knoxville subreddit a couple weeks ago. He was like, what is there to love about Knoxville? I've lived here for 3 years and blah, blah, blah. I ain't found nothing that I really enjoy. And everybody was like, yo, this is cool shit. And you're being a wiener. Like, you know, they pretty much called him out for having a no-good attitude about living here.
Yeah.
And that when you got a no-good attitude, your point of view is shit. And, you know, you're not going to find the things that you enjoy because you're being a sourpuss.
Yeah.
And, you know, there were a lot of good recommendations of fun things to go do. This has actually ended up being a very productive and informative thread on top of him getting called out for being a sourpuss. So I was like, God, thank you, Knoxville, for this shining moment.
For stepping up and not being shitty. Well, that's like, I was sitting around, there was this group of, yeah, fuck it. I'll say it. I don't care. You get a lot of that when I talk. During the pandemic, something that really helped me out a lot was, and it was Sean Pointer that started this, we had the prayer circle. Yeah. Every Wednesday night, we would sit around, smoke cigars and drink and just bullshit. And there was like 6 to 8 of us, but we all sat mutually, good distance apart. And we did it throughout the entire damn pandemic. And we did shit like 3 of us were sitting there and one of the guys said, pop music has made a comeback. I was like, pop music has made a comeback.
Yeah.
So the next time we met up, we had each picked like 5 songs and brought good speakers and played our songs.
Yeah.
And because I grew up with WWF and the championship belt, I won. Because the first song I played, they were like, holy shit, this is good. I was like, you're goddamn right, this is good. And every song I picked, they were like, holy shit. This Child, CHIILD, Pirouette. Great song. Listen to it. My friend Holly Tyler's the one who gave it to me. But we would sit around and do that, and one of the guys was like, when the food hall got announced, he's like, well, thank God, because there are no good restaurants in this town. I was like, hold the fuck up. No.
Sir, that's a ballsy statement.
I was like, and he was like, because if I go to X restaurant, it's inconsistent. And I was like,
that's any
dude,
restaurant, sir.
That's everywhere. What the hell are you talking about? And he was just kept going on and on. He's like, and he said this phrase, we're going to be like a real city now. And that was the point where I was like, you can go fuck yourself. I was like, you don't go to these 10 restaurants that are fantastic. We're going to be like a real city.
Nobody can see me like making this contorted face right now
We're going to be
What?
like a real city because
What?
we have a food hall. Because we have a mall food court.
How whew, I'm having a hard time with this. How
If you could see, the steam is coming off of his
it's
head.
shooting out of my ears.
His red hair went redder.
That is a very short-sighted statement, and I'm sorry this person has such a point of view. I hope it has since changed, but
I don't know. We don't hang out as much anymore, but
there are plenty.
he is actually a very nice guy.
There are plenty. Well, I wasn't making that statement, but or a statement against that point. But there, man, we are so lucky to have all the food that we have here, and obviously we have all the corporate bullshits, which have their own merits.
Yeah.
But as far as like independently owned and operated Knoxville unique restaurants, like per capita, we're really high up there.
Yeah.
Compared to all of the other major cities that would be on a like, oh God, you have to eat here list.
Yeah. I've gone to some of those big cities and ate at some of those. Oh God, you got to eat here, and they are not very good.
Sometimes you fall victim to the hype.
Yeah.
And that's why I enjoy less hype.
Yeah. But going back to, like, I think one thing that's kind of helped me sustain my love of this town is because I like exploring it. I like getting out there and trying new things because I grew up where we didn't do that. And the other thing was...
where you didn't have a lot of access to things in general, too.
No. And the other thing is sharing Knoxville to other people. I was like, man, having people come here. So if you won't go down this rabbit hole.
Yeah, let's go.
Of the gatekeeping in Knoxville. So I applied for a Bailey grant with the Emporium. And my pitch was, I live alone. I have a living room and a bedroom in the basement. I would like to build out a full scale, a proper screen printing shop. And I sourced everything. I was like, here's what it'll cost. It was around, like, the people who'd done Bailey grants before had said, do everything. T-shirts, whatever you're wanting to print on, ink, make sure to add everything. And it was like $18,000. And they're giving away $300,000. And so I did that, and I was like, here's my pitch. I was like, I want to do that, and here's why I want to do that. I want to do that because I want to be able to make my own art that I can potentially live off of. But I also know that won't be everything, but it'll be something small to help supplement my income and keep me to be an artist full time.
Right.
This is before I had the job. And the other thing, I was like, once a month, I'm going to have a residency where I'm going to bring somebody not from here to come in here, and they're going to stay here for a week, and we're going to workshop ideas and then produce a piece, and they will leave with half of those pieces, and I'll have the other half of the pieces. In that time, I will get to show them Knoxville.
Yeah, I like that.
And
I like that idea a lot.
This will be good for Knoxville because you'll have these people coming in. And I already had a sign-up sheet of 6 people. One from Emporia, Kansas, who's a printmaking teacher there. One from Cleveland, Ohio, who's a screen printer. Like, all over. Had people like, I'm in. What do I need to do? And it cost $18,000. Yeah. And that was really like doing the best of the best. And I got rejected. And I got told later, oh, yeah, you have to apply like, this is all hearsay. Do not come at me for this. And also, I don't give a shit. This is what I heard. Oh, you have to apply like 4 to 5 times to actually get it. I was like, then I will never apply again.
Yeah, right.
I will do this on my own, and I will not.
If that's the bureaucracy and Sisyphean nature of it, I have no desire to participate.
And there was somebody else who had applied, and that person had said, oh, I've applied 4 to 5 times, and this time all I got was a percentage of what I asked for.
Yeah.
I was like, then where is this $300,000 going every year? I would like to know that. Like, I would like to be held. I would like them to be held accountable because it's also $300,000, $18,000. This is also a bigger idea of bringing people to the city,
right? That's
and creating art.
The scope of that is greater than just how you're going to spend this money.
Yes, and I got rejected, and I was just like, so this ended up. There's an episode of my podcast with Josh Shorey, and it's me yelling, and it's me doing a lot of yelling about like. I don't think in this city, because this is an art podcast, this is something, actually, God forbid, it's on topic. For once, for this 3 hours, an hour 5, I don't feel like I get taken seriously as an artist by other artists in this town.
Okay, so and the parallels in my experience, I've applied to show work at several galleries around town, that shall remain nameless for their safety.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I've shown a lot of work independently, for First Fridays and stuff, and I've done a lot of intermediate things that are, not First Fridays, but I've never shown in an established gallery around town,
Yeah.
and that really bothers me because I'm not going to sit here and say I'm owed it,
Right.
but I've put in sweat and
Right.
and whatnot, and I've worked my craft and done the things, and I feel as if I've earned the chance to be put on some of those walls because I've done work. I've curated my own shows. I've curated shows with other people. I know how this works.
Yeah.
And if you're going to tell me this is a juried gallery and we just don't have room for you, then you and the 7 other people that made that decision can eat my asshole.
Yeah.
And you'll never have the privilege of showing my art.
So, okay. You just said the R-rated version of what I've always said, which is, if you're saying I'm not good enough to walk through your doors, I'm going to build my own fucking doors over here and do my own thing.
Honestly,
you can go fuck yourself.
This is the thing
but,
that I've felt really strongly about. And this ties in with the whole I've never seen it before, I want to build it or I want to make it. And this is that same I've not been given space, so I'm going to make my space and then share it.
Yeah.
And I guess part of that's like that, if you're going to do it yourself, kind of like resourceful country, Southern Appalachian, if you want to do it, and, keep your circle small kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I've never shied away from that point of view because it's always been the way I get stuff done. And I've had successful collaborations with all kinds of people for pieces of art and art shows and curated shows that I've put on. But it's been me taking the charge on it.
Yeah.
I've never had anybody meet me in the middle on doing a specific thing.
Yeah.
And that's been kind of difficult, but it's a double-edged sword, and I don't think I'd exactly trade it for a whole lot. But it can be taxing at times. I don't hate it. It's worth it. It's always worth it. But it can take a lot out of a person.
I'm trying to think how to say this next statement in a way that will be succinct enough. So, not to harp on this, because sometimes I feel like I lean on this a little too much. I'm a white guy who grew up in a black neighborhood, and guess what? I was welcomed. And you know who didn't pick on me when I was a kid? Other black people.
Yeah, the black kids.
I was like, it was nothing but love and everything. You know who did pick on me?
All the white kids?
White kids. You know who I don't feel like takes me serious now? Rich white people.
Well,
I
would love for rich white people not to take me seriously, but buy my shit anyway.
So, when George Floyd happened, it was amazing to me how many white friends of mine were like, oh, Jody, did you know racism still exists?
Yes, Bob.
I was like, no shit. Huh, that's fascinating.
Did you open your eyes while you were walking around in the streets today? You could have seen it.
And they would talk down to me and explain to me what black life was like. And I would just be like, this is adorable.
Right, because the things you're saying aren't the things I saw in my life experience.
Yeah. And it's also of the thing of, and I still don't know if this word is wrong or not. And I've asked, tokenism. I saw so many of those be like, I have one black friend. I was like,
oh yeah.
I was like, cool.
And
I can't count.
You sitting across from me right now, sometimes I'm people's token ginger friend.
Oh, yeah. But it amazed me that they were like, okay, I've got one friend, I'm done.
That's that virtue signaling bullshit right there.
So, and I had this discussion, and this is a weird thing. I swear, I don't mean to sound like I'm a fucking tough dude or whatever bullshit, but I had this discussion with a friend the other night, and this will be the first time I think I've said this publicly. I think saying it to my friend was the first time I'd actually said it to another person. Because it sounds crazy. Like I said, a lot of things are in my head. But it was my little sister, when there was a protest after George Floyd that went through the city. She was like, I would like to go to that. Please go with me to that.
And you said, run it, right? Let's go.
I said, no. I begrudgingly said, okay. Here's why. And then the day of, she was like, I'm not feeling well. I don't think I can go. I was like, okay. But in my head, I was thinking, thank God. Because here's the thing. Been seeing on the news of these protests happening and seeing police officers get combative with protesters.
Yep, it's a dangerous place to be.
Here's the problem with me. If anybody laid a hand on my sister, and here's how I put it, and I will say this bold and to the point. If a cop put a hand on my sister, there would be 6 cops laid out.
Oh, that's because then you'd be charged with assaulting an officer and all
because
the things.
I would not stop fighting until I put as many. I hurt as many. I'm not going to say anything more inflammatory than that. As many as humanly possible. And I have a lot of anger and rage in me. And if you touch my sister, you deserve every bit of it. And I was like, I take that back. I told one friend at that time about that, and he was like, if you know that about yourself, it's good you did not put yourself. I was like, I would have hurt people. Because I don't take that shit.
I don't think that's necessarily a crazy thing to say. I think that's an insightful thing to know about yourself.
Yeah.
Now, if more people were aware of themselves in that degree, society would act much more different.
Yeah. Because I also had this, and here is a crazy thing.
Oh.
Are you ready? This one is
lay it on me, brother.
Way out there. So I was walking around New York one time. I'm a kind of schlubby dude. I got it. But I'm walking around, and I looked at a group of cops, and I am not anti-cop. I am not any of that. I have known cops that are decent people. I have known cops that are piles of shit. There's a cop that I went to high school with that he got arrested for domestic assault. He got taken off the force for a little while, and then magically a few years later, he was back on the force. I was like, no, you're done. You're done. You go. You can't do that shit. But I was walking around New York. I saw this group of cops, and they all were looking like they were tough. And I looked at them, I was like, I could take all of their guns. Because one of them, his belly was over his gun. And I was like, because in my head, I'm like, you're not doing none of this 5 of you that are standing here are doing any good. And you're not going to do any help. Like, you should mentally and physically be fit, I think, to be a cop.
I would totally agree.
But I think mentally, even more so.
Oh, of course.
I saw a tweet that was brilliant where there was this woman who said, why did it take me 6 years to practice law when it takes a cop 6 months to enforce the law? I was like, that is one of the best statements I've ever heard.
I wholeheartedly agree with that polarity.
So I saw this happen in New York, and I came home and I was like, all right, Sean, I got a new theory. If I can take your gun is mine. I was like, I really want to do this. I really want to be like, because I would see these guys at like, there were guys at Easttown Mall that'd be like, I'm carrying, because, if shit pops off, I was like, I can take your gun. You wouldn't be able to pull that gun before I got it from you. I've been in enough fights in my life, and look at you. No. If I can, and that's why I say, I'm not trying to sound tough, but I was like, if you're going to have a gun, you need to practice with it.
You need to use the tool responsibly.
Yeah, because I boxed for a long time, and I've known martial art people, and it was like, who's dangerous is the people who've been doing martial arts for 6 months because they think they're tough and they think they're badass, and they get their ass whipped.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, you have to hold me in this certain position for me to be able to fight you. So I think the same thing with guns. I've got friends that own guns that they go out and they shoot on the regular, and they know how to handle it. They know how to safely do everything. That's fine to a point. I'm also not big on all the guns. Anyway. But can't tell you how many people have bought a gun and not shot it in 5 years. It's like, then your gun should be gone.
Yeah, you don't need that. Why do you have it?
Yeah. So that's my wild, if I can take your gun is mine.
I don't hate that logic. I really don't. If more people were So.
I love this. I have hijacked this. For those listening at home, I'm sorry I've hijacked this.
He's not podcast. Sorry, and neither am I.
It's the old-fashioned talking.
No, it's not. We're just being honest.
In hour 7, we're being honest.
Listen, buddy, I was honest when I stepped in your house. All right?
Oh, God, that's awesome.
But I sincerely and wholeheartedly agree that firearms are a tool that should be used properly, practiced with, knowledgeable of, like any other tool.
Yeah.
but you also have to understand the gravity of the decisions you make when
Yeah.
you use this tool. That's why you need to know the ins and outs and the downrange of
Yeah.
this tool. And I really feel like a lot of people fail in a social responsibility aspect about these tools. And that saddens the shit out of me because as someone that grew up with and around firearms, learning how to use them, clean them, handle them, use them responsibly for myself, the safety of others, and society, I know these things.
Yeah.
And to see people not know these things kind of breaks my heart because those are the scenarios that end up with people hurt.
Yeah.
And any gun violence I feel as if is avoidable violence.
Yeah.
And that's really the long and short of it and the black and white of my opinion. Obviously the topic isn't black and white, but
Well, it was so when I worked at PetSafe, I worked around a bunch of engineers who lived in Dandridge or lived in West Knoxville, and there were a bunch of old white dudes. And there were points where, like, because I'm going to take it back to art, he's the artist. He probably puts a daisy in the gun, and he probably does all that. I was like, what the fuck are you talking? I was like, I just don't like guns. And they would harp
it's
on
like
me.
I could touch your wrist and your palm and then you would lose that gun.
Yeah. Well, all of them were just like, almost called me like a pansy for not liking
Yeah.
guns. And then I finally looked at him. It's like, I went to Fulton High School. I saw a gun for a drug transaction on my first day in school. I've had friends that were victims of drive-by. My graduating class of somewhere between 103 and 108, 3/4 are dead, in prison, or have done jail time.
For gun
Maybe
violence.
I don't like guns because
Right,
of
yeah.
that. Because my parent, my dad, my uncle did not have guns growing up, so they were not a thing for me. And
I grew up surrounded by guns
Yeah.
and cars and liquor and not to say that my childhood was unsafe,
Yeah.
but I wasn't necessarily sheltered.
Yeah.
A lot of the more outlaw aspects of country life were just normal
Yeah.
things to me growing up.
Well, and to go back, it's like my uncles all fought in freaking Vietnam
Right,
in
so
the jungles. They don't want guns.
So you've got firsthand accounts of how all these people think about how society behaves around firearms
Yeah.
and how they use it to
Yeah.
destroy one another.
Good Lord. Yeah, I can't keep talking. We can go back to art.
Well,
but it's honestly, I think about a lot of those. There are some times when I create art that may not clearly have a political message, but it has a political message to me. Big thing for me is voting. So every year on Feral Giant, you will see at least 1 to 2 or 3 posts about voting. Because I'm like, get out and vote. Get out and vote.
That's the system we have to affect change.
I was like, gerrymandering is awful.
Yes,
You
it
know
is.
how you combat gerrymandering? Vote. And let's change that shit. I was like, so another fun fact, dad, truck driver, but where we lived in East Knoxville, somebody tried the property next to us went up for sale, and it was 8 acres. And somebody wanted to come in and build an apartment complex where 1,200 people were going to live in that. And there was going to be one entrance and exit, and it was going to be right next to our driveway. And my dad said, the fuck they are. And he got involved with his neighborhood organization, and he fought it, and he's been president of his neighborhood organization since like 1991, 1992.
Gnarly community action.
To where he gets asked by the city to go mentor people who are starting neighborhood associations. Like he would show up to city council meetings, MPC meetings, not really county commission, in his shorts with grease and shit all over him. And when I was in the 7th grade, he said, "You're taking English. You write my damn speeches for me." I would write his speeches for him when I was 12 years old.
I heard you talk about that on one of the episodes.
Oh, okay.
Um,
And because of all that, my dad, because he did that after a few years, he was like, "Son, those people in Washington don't give a shit about us. Get involved locally because that's where it matters."
yeah, that's where you can most easily
Yes.
affect change.
And so
I
I've been living that since I was in the 7th or 8th grade.
Excellent.
Yeah. Of just being like, no, I've voted in every single election I've been
Able to vote in.
Oh,
Yeah.
everyone. Everyone. And it's just like, no, I don't just vote for president. I actually had another one of my random thoughts were, if you miss voting 3 times, you have to take a citizenship test to be able to vote again. And I'm not talking about presidential election. I'm talking every election.
That's pretty gnarly. That's a pretty hard
These
line.
are the platforms I'm never going to run. There's too much dirt on me. I can't run.
Well, okay. Well, who doesn't have dirt? But let's
Okay,
switch gears
sorry.
here. So the other day when you sent me a message, you're like, "Hey, I just did this piece with the typesetter fella," and when
Yeah.
I said I'm gonna turn this on right now, I turned it on right
Yeah.
then, and I think I said that it was good. Got back to you about it, but let me tell you right now, since we're talking about shit, that I really enjoyed that episode, and
Thank you.
and the kind of conversation you had with that gentleman there is kind of the conversation I really try to structure myself towards, but don't always get to.
Okay.
But that I've been successful in this aim several times, but they're not always that, which
Yeah.
is fine. But the questions you asked that gentleman about how and where and when and why are all questions I enjoy hearing artists answer.
Thank you.
And
Amos Kennedy Jr. For anyone listening at home, that was his name.
yes, and typesetting and letterpress work is a dying art in society nowadays. To see someone supremely passionate and knowledgeable about it and being able to speak articulately about it as well is a privilege to listen to and a pleasure to be able to present. So I'm glad you got to do that, and I'm happy I got to listen to it.
And it's a 70-year-old dude that still has fire in his belly.
Yeah.
When we were talking about, I asked him some question about, like, do you see your art as political statements? He's like, everything is political.
Yeah,
like he went hard in the paint.
He did. And it's one of those things you can't I was talking about this with somebody the other day. It is so hard to insulate your expression from the influences and greater context of a person's life, that how can you say that anything you make isn't political?
Yeah. It's what you were saying, like how I think another thing I didn't mention was something that also fuels me up is listening to music or podcasts or anything that is another art form that I am not good at, like music especially. But one of them that's fired me up is the band Run the Jewels.
Oh yeah,
Run the Jewels.
Oh yeah,
Run the Jewels 2. That album may be one of the most important albums of the last 25 years. Like it. And I don't think people recognize it as much as they should. Like, but that album, like Run the Jewels 1 was good. Rap music was great. But Run the Jewels 2 was the one. And Killer Mike had said that the head of the record label, who's the guy in charge of Adult Swim, who's their record label, said it was either that one or rap music. He was like, I want you to make an album that if you died tomorrow, that would be the album that you would want everybody to hear.
That's the
and
one.
It was either 2 or rap music, and I want to think it was Run the Jewels 2. And it's just, it leaves no stone unturned. But it fires me up.
Those cats aren't scared to say what's on their mind, and I really appreciate that about their expression. When people unabashedly just say what they feel and are passionate about it the way those gentlemen are passionate about it, I enjoy watching people articulately express their passions.
Yeah.
And those two gentlemen do that in those albums. And that's for anybody, though, because if you can talk about the hows and whys of the thing you do and how you enjoy it, then I know you can say all the things you need to say about that.
Yeah.
And I love it.
I'm going to pull up. God, if I can get my stupid...
Oh, shit. Is this a multimedia presentation?
I get my internet to work, because my internet may be down.
Right.
I have a YouTube playlist that's favorites, and I save everything that I want to keep watching.
Yeah.
And the variety on there. This goes back to when you asked, like, what would my favorite day be? And I said variety. Like, my favorites list is so chaotic because it is stuff from like music to
Jody, Wrigley Field, Breaking Bad, and scroll down. I need to.
But here we go. Like somebody mashed up "Tear You Apart" and Bela Lugosi's "Dead," and it works great.
I'm fine.
That Wrigley Field, it's this drone thing that is one of the greatest things I've seen. The Glimpse of Us came from TikTok because somebody mashed up "Glimpse of Us" with La La Land. and it almost makes me cry.
You know what? Somebody fucked me up the other day, and I heard somebody singing Fallout Boy to the tune of Lovely Day by Bill Withers, and it fucked me up in the best way.
The Breaking Bad is somebody did a hypercut of the Ecstasy of Gold from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly to every Breaking Bad season, to where it just hypercut. Come downstairs and say hello. That's one of my favorite bands, Guster. They're performing it with the Colorado Symphony Orchestra at Red Rocks.
Nice.
I've seen them live twice now, and the second time I saw them, something that I said in the Adam Kennedy podcast that just dropped today, that I asked him if you could go back and tell yourself. I didn't say 14-year-old self. I asked him when he was still working at Scripps Networks before he started Refill, what would he tell himself? And then he turned around me. He's like, what would you tell? I was like, I would go back and tell my younger self, don't be afraid to cry. Stop holding that shit in. Because I told the story, I saw Sigur Rós at the Ryman, and I cried twice. And I cried so hard that I was reaching in my pocket and gripping my thigh to stop myself from heaving. And the second time I saw Guster, I saw them in Nashville with the symphony orchestra there. And when they played Come Downstairs and Say Hello, it was like I was openly crying. I was like, this is a work of art that affects me in such a way that I have a hard time breathing. Carl Sagan, Pale Blue Dart.
I don't know how anybody doesn't have that on there.
Ted Lasso, this Be Curious, Not Judgmental. The dart scene is one of the best things I've ever seen. It's about loss and grief. This guy using GoPros going through the abandoned Silver Dome.
That's neat.
The papyrus thing from SNL, which is still one of the funniest things ever. And it's got a lot of commercials like this Leave Nothing from Nike, the Dick's Sporting Goods. Those are really cool in that some of them it's technical things like the pitch one, the baseball one. Let's see, Dick's Sporting Goods baseball commercial, every pitch. They switch the audio on who's talking.
Oh yeah,
and they hyper zoom in, they hyper zoom out, and it's just like it's everything to like one round of a pitch. And it's brilliantly done. It's by the guy Bennett Miller who did Moneyball.
Okay,
he did like two of these ads. The Roots on NPR, that they came in, they did one song, they destroyed. There's the opening, Escape from New York. We talked about this Battles music video that it's like all one shot. Inspirational Nike ad, the Midnight, now it's music. These are some of the best, I think, on a late night show performances. Drive-By Truckers with Jason Isbell doing Never Gonna Change. My Morning Jacket, One Big Holiday on Conan. My Morning Jacket doing Gideon with the Boston Pops on Letterman.
And some Squirrely Dan.
And the the Killers, the car chase scene from The Longest Yard.
What a lovely classic movie that is.
That car chase scene to Leonard Skinner's Saturday Night Special is one of the best ever. The all thing Ted Lasso to Build a Home, which is one of my favorite songs. Squirrely Dan, that's one of the funniest.
Wait. What is the John Carter teaser trailer doing on here? I know you know why it's there. Tell me why it's there.
Because they use Peter Gabriel's "My Body Is a cover of My Body Is a Cage."
Okay.
And it's the mirror. It makes that movie seem so just big that it's just something. And it's weird because it's kind of quiet music for most of it and very subdued. And then the strings just go nuts. And then it ends on being very quiet, just him and a piano. True. And it made that movie look so great. And I don't hate that movie. It's not great.
But that ad for the movie is great.
The ad. So I've got like a few trailers like that. Like there are 2 Super Man of Steel trailers that I will watch on repeat because they're just so well done. The Just a Little Bit is something ever since I aired on the West Wing, where it's a dad takes his daughter to Notre Dame for a campus tour, and he's talking to Toby and Josh, and he was like, life should be hard. It should be hard for a dad to make the money to put his daughter through college. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's a good thing, but it should be just a little bit easier. And he's talking about like paying for college should be tax deductible. He's like, it should be a little bit easier. It shouldn't be. And Billy Wayne Davis said, there are rich people and there are people 2 bad things away from completely fucking their life.
Yep.
And I think about that all the time.
I also am happy to see you have a John Prine song in here.
So that is as weird as it sounds, that's the first time I actually heard a John Prine song.
Really?
Him on Austin City Limits, that's a Blaze Foley song, but it sounds like a John Prine song.
Well, I think he can sing anything and make it sound like a John Prine song.
And then some of this, it's like I've always wanted to do a series of people playing out music out in public. So that's what that Willie Carlisle, the racing Michael Vick from Atlanta, that's still one of the funniest things, where he was like, sometimes you got to stun on people. The Bear Claws, they figured out the Facebook Live algorithm, so they'll play one element of the song and keep building and letting the algorithm play all the instruments. Bert Kreischer telling the Tracy Morgan story, Claire DeLune from Ocean's 11, like it's all just like crazy shit. The Castaway monologue, I've got ice in my glass, it's one of the best speeches ever. The Aston Martin Vantage review from Top Gear, the cinematography and everything.
Yo, automotive journalism is some of the prettiest shit I've ever seen in my life.
And as awful as those three guys are, because they're pieces of shit, like that show is one of the greatest television shows that was ever on.
It really is. The cinematography and sound design of that show is some of the best you can possibly watch.
I'm going to try to skip through because there's a lot of music. This is
wait. Infinity War trailer set to Gangsta's Paradise?
Yes.
Yes.
But it's orchestral and choral version of it.
Gimme.
Prince performing Purple Rain. This is one of the greatest things I've ever seen. And I'll hit play, but I'll come back. But it's all just like shit that I will watch over and over. And some of it's funny. Some of it is, this is one of the funniest things. It's too, Patty! Talking about the sweet potato pie from Patty. This is one of the weirdest commercials that they used to have about Coca-Cola. I'm going to keep going because this will just keep going. I mean, it's got everything. There's the life as an artist. What I was really wanting to show you is this. Killer Mike's life advice, where he was like, most people are average. Be okay with being average.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit. Like, but this thing, and I'll let it play in the background because it'll probably be so quiet you can't hear it. I'll turn the volume down just in case. But this came up. I don't know how I found it, but it's a piano player playing Claire DeLune, which I think is one of the most beautiful pieces of music ever made. And watch what this guy does along to Claire DeLune. This is one of those things where it's like, this makes me, God, fucking ads. Come on, YouTube.
So last time I had a TV running and the podcast going at the same time, we had like a nature documentary on Netflix in the background.
Oh, really?
So every now and again, be like, damn, those penguins. Like,
So Adam and I were watching football, and we were making commentary on the football games. Like, oh shit, Patrick Mahomes just fucked up his leg. But this is the thing I'm talking about like going back and telling my 14-year-old self, don't be afraid to cry. It doesn't make you less of a man to cry.
You know, one of the things I realized about my particular human experience and how rich I am in ways that money can't quantify is that I am so privileged as of late to cry more happy tears than sad tears.
Yeah.
I have them both, and they come in different quantities. But overall, the ratio skews towards the happy tears.
Yeah. Well, and something I told Adam is, this is a hard thing to admit, but during the pandemic, there were times where I was not eating because I didn't have enough money for food.
That's a normal part of our level in society's story.
And one of my friends works in tech, and he was like, I have money. He makes a ton of money. And so he just, without me asking, bought me like 6 months of Butcher Box. And he was like, I don't want to have to worry about you worrying about if you're going to eat or not.
Yeah.
And so he was like, it costs me nothing to do this.
Also, what we're seeing on the screen right now is a gentleman dancing on a trampoline and a set of stairs to this tune.
And it's almost like Buster Keaton shit.
Well, it's in black and white, so that helps.
Yeah. But so he didn't tell me he was doing this, and the first Butcher Box came, and I was like, wait,
what the hell? Just who did this?
Yeah, what did this? And I was like, and I texted him, I was like, did you do this? He's like, yeah, because he said that. I don't want to have to worry about you worrying about whether or not you're going to eat. And I stood right there. It's around Christmas time. Here's where you can make fun of me. Coldplay's Christmas Lights was playing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a problem with Coldplay. And I think that song is actually a beautiful song. because it's about being lonely at Christmas time. And that song was playing, and I'm sitting there with Butcher Box sitting right there, and I'm just
You got this box full of meat.
listening to Coldplay, and I was just standing up and just openly crying. I was like, I'm going to make it another day.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm so fortunate in this world that I'm going to make it another day.
So, right. And I found that gratitude, not only as an overarching theme in my life experience, but as a contributing factor to my creative expression, has been supremely helpful.
Yeah.
And that's grateful in all aspects, even for the negative things that happen, because the duality of experience is that you always have the good and the bad in some degree. But these things influence and sway your personal humanity in ways that are often better for you.
I think I am a better person and work harder. Like I've actually said before, I get up every day trying to be a good person. And I think the reason I have is because I've had so many people shit on me from day
You
one.
have a really good example of how to be a bad person.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like, so 2 episodes of Ramblin' Man are just me telling dating stories, because I'm also a 44-year-old man who's dated a lot. And it's almost 7.5 hours of my friend Krista and I talking. And one of the greatest things ever, spoiler alert, we get through at the very end, I tell her one of the final stories, which is reprehensible. And at the end, Krista's just sitting there with this face, just like she's so angry. And like the security guard at MoMA, I started giggling like an idiot. And I was like, do you hate people? And she was like, well, I've always hated people. I want to kill her.
Right?
I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And I could not stop laughing. This included in that story was a woman broke up with me by making me meet her at Chick-fil-A in Fountain City, putting her hand in my face, swirling it, and going, you're just 10% off of perfect for me.
I'm making a face. What a bitch.
Like, that is awful. Like,
but that's also a compliment on the flip side of the coin, because you're 90% perfect for her.
I guess.
But that was not enough to outweigh the 10%.
But it was somebody I really cared about. And it would really... But now I love it because it's fucking hilarious.
Oh, that's fun. That's funny the minute removed from when it happened. But unfortunate because it had to happen to you.
Yeah.
But
oh God, yeah. We're really going down. So this is the Rambling Man version of KAAMP.
So normally when I label these things, I say KAAMPX, and then whatever the other title is.
Yeah.
So there's not. You can't be so exclusionary for yourself to isolate yourself from your influences.
Yeah.
So here we are, not isolated from our influences.
Yeah.
But I've got plenty of stories of such shenanigans as well. But not that we need,
Yeah.
not that they have to be disclosed here, but I have similar stories. Yeah.
But yeah, okay, so going back to art, because I'm going to go back to this influence. Oh, fuck. Why am I... It's staring me in the damn face.
This one right here?
Yes.
The
Christina's World. So, that's...
Is this a collage or a portrait, or...
No, that's Christina's World by Wyeth. That's
Okay.
just the straight up... So, I'm at MoMA. I turn a corner and walk into this room. It's a small room. And on the wall is Christina's World. And I walked up probably like 4 or 5 feet in front of it, and I literally looked around and I said, everyone leave. And you had some
That's
people...
something I've never heard in a gallery or a museum before.
I had some people like kind of looking at me. I was like, I'm not kidding. I need you to leave
I need a
right now. And I stood in that room and stared at that painting for probably a good 5 minutes alone. And I had heard another artist talk about that it was damn near a sculpture because how he built the paint up. So I got in close and you could see it. And it was just like, I can't put into words what that painting means to me. And I know it's one that everybody has seen and everybody knows. And one of my friends is like...
But that doesn't matter because it's how it strikes you.
No. And same thing with this. My friend Saul Young took this photograph at Reasonable Ron's Tires. And there's something about this photo. Something about the two old heads watching... I don't think that's a young dude. But watching that dude work while they're not working, there's something about that piece that speaks to me that I can't explain. But that one in particular was one. That's why I go to art museums, because I want to see the shit that's known and unknown and make the decision on my own.
Right. And that's all one can do, really. You
Yeah.
put yourself in a place to be able to have that luxury.
Well, and I've seen, I don't know how many Rothkos, and every time I see one, I was like, it's not hitting me. I don't understand it.
I feel like people get caught up in spending a lot of money on art.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. I'd like to have a lot of money spent on my work, man, art world in general is such a fickle, funny, strange, unusual place, and especially how money flows in, out, and through it.
Yeah.
And I've never been much of a salesman other than telling people, like, hey, this is available. Enjoy it at your leisure.
No, I did a piece. Do you know Pachakacha?
No.
So Pachakacha, so there'll be one on Thursday. It's 20 slides, 20 seconds a slide, and it's a presentation. And you can, there's
Alon Ferenczi was telling me about this the other day when I recorded with him. That's a presentation style. And
the rabbi.
Yes. And
he was on my podcast.
And he was telling me about how he does some of his presentations.
He's going to be there Thursday night presenting.
Yeah, he was working on the thing when I showed up at his house
on
Friday.
I've done it 3 times, and they're all over the country, but I've done it 3 times, and shit, why did I bring that up? Chaka-cha. That. Holy shit, did I lose that train of thought?
I mean, maybe did it leave the station?
Yeah. I can't remember why I brought it. But Chaka-cha. I do know why. I'll eventually get there. I've done the artwork for the poster a few times.
Okay.
And the last one I did, one of the guys who runs it was like, this is amazing. I was like, thanks. It's like, what's it mean? I was like, I don't know.
Here's the information. That's what it means.
Yeah. I was like, well, what it was is I really wanted to work with like Creative Commons images and just build upon multiple images to make it be one piece. And he could not. He was like, yeah, but this has to mean something. I was like, sometimes
no, dude, it's just an assembly of things.
It was just up here.
He was looking for it real hard.
And I just worked through it. And there was a point where I was like, this piece is done. And I was done.
Yeah.
And those are the ones where when I talked to Josh Shorey about, like, sometimes you need 3 paragraphs to explain what something means. Sometimes it can just be art.
Yeah. I enjoy the lack of context sometimes. Here's the thing. It's being presented as it is, and you do with it what you will.
Yeah.
And honestly, I present a lot of my artwork like that because I don't have a lot of higher ideas that I attach to things. I make a lot of things that are just frivolous and pretty for the sake of being frivolous and pretty.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that, I also make pieces that contain political statements, and I'm not afraid to make either one of these.
I got one for you. So I was in college. It's still the funniest thing. I was in this class, intermediate color and design. And there's 2 funny stories that came out of that class. One of them was we had to do a transformation where it was like 5 pieces of art. That one thing started with one thing, ended with something else. Because I was in the graphic design program, I was like, can I use Photoshop? She's like, you can. No one else can. Like, cool. So I took a photo of Clarence Thomas and I made him morph into a Coke can. And I made a hair come down to float down and end up on the Coke can. And I presented it. It took me 10 minutes to do. It took me longer to cut out, spray mount it than it did the Photoshop work. And she still to this day has it hanging in her office. She was like, this is a brilliant political statement. I was like, thank you. And all the dudes in the class were like, is that really your pubic hair? I was like, I'll never tell. I'll never tell. And I still won't tell. But it was, but she was like, that is a brilliant political statement. This is in like 97. I was like, this has been over for like 5 years. What are you talking about? This is like, but, and then later on we were working on 2 pieces concurrently. One of them was a self-portrait. And one of them was we had to take a piece, do whatever, and then cut it up and rearrange it. And I was working at Taco Bell, brag, and we had this squishy eyeball thing. And so what I did was I gridded off a piece of paper, and I just chose a different piece and I painted the different pieces on that instead of cutting it up.
Yeah.
So, because I wanted to challenge myself, I was like, I want to paint the different elements without cutting it up, because I feel like just painting the thing and then cutting it up's boring.
Yeah.
So it took me like 3 weeks to work on that painting. And then the other piece, the self-portrait, I took a piece of black paper and used colored pencil, and I drew all these elements from my life. Boxing, basketball, sports, all that. But I can't draw faces or hands, so I just left any part of me out. So it was like a shirt that had no arm, but then it had like a boxing glove floating in there. Had no face. So we're reviewing both in the same day. We get to the eyeball, and she's like, I've sat here and watched you do this for 3 weeks. This is awful. This is absolutely terrible. You did it wrong. I don't know why you did it this way. She was just going at me.
How can you do this wrong?
Yeah, it's art. So then we get down to the self-portrait thing that took me 45 minutes to do. And she looked at me and she's like, I think this is brilliant. I think this says a lot about how you feel about yourself, because you didn't draw yourself in this. You draw all these elements that make you you. And I was like, I just can't draw faces. That's why I didn't draw the damn face. But I didn't tell her. I was like,
right. You sat there and be like, yes, this is exactly blah, 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 blah.
Obviously.
Right.
And it was so funny. I was like, shit, this thing I worked on really hard. And she was like, this sucks.
But this thing that you put no effort into at all.
Yeah.
Glorious.
Yeah. It's gorgeous. Yeah.
Oh, it's great.
Hang it in the Louvre.
Self-portraits haven't really been a thing I experiment with too much. I've done a few, but it's been a hot minute.
Yeah.
I think the last one I did like 2010, which is definitely well past that now.
Yeah.
But I had this really nice little bubbler pipe, and I had this idea of me like standing against a column of my parents' house, the porch, and like reclining with my foot up on the column and like the pipe by my belly, and I'm exhaling a big cloud of smoke. That is all of the things that accentuate my personality.
That's cool.
And it's, everything from clothes and jewelry to, music. Just like the breadth of my interests are represented inside of this cloud of smoke.
Right.
I need to see if I still have this piece, because I really like it. Or recreate it, one or the other.
I was going to say,
I should do that now.
In the early days of Feral Giant, I was like, I need social media content. So every Thursday, I still have my portfolio from when I was in college and work from when I was in college.
Yeah.
I would take a picture of it and critique it. And I was ruthless.
Man, so I've probably got three ring binder folders from high school, and that's probably things from like sophomore to my senior year. Because I would have, my binder with my notebooks and the folders and everything in it, and whatever I would just draw in my notebook, I would pop out and put it in the binder, or in the folder in the binder.
Yeah.
And I just ended up with like these 3-inch thick folders of just, stuff that I'd drawn throughout the school years. And like I said, I've still got them, and every now and again I'll get ballsy and go through them.
Oh my God.
I need to go through it and see if this specific picture is in there, because I feel like it is.
Yeah.
I would love to see this again.
Well, like I said, so like the 36 Days of Time thing, that's a good example of how I said there were pieces that I really didn't like, but I can't tell you how many times doing those in the practice, which is what you talked about, how many times I've went back to those pieces and pulled something from it and used it. I've got this drawing I did. I was like, I need to draw wood with the grain. Mm-hmm. So I literally took like a 2x4 and then drew this grain pattern and did enough to where I can make a pattern out of it. Like, let's say 2x4, so 5x5, and did that. And then I applied it to that wood. And then when I would do multiple pieces, I would flip it upside down, I would flip it, do all that. I have reused that wood for 200 projects. Because it's just like...
Because it works.
It's malleable. I built it to work. Mm-hmm. And it's just hilarious. Because every time it'll show up and I'm half expecting somebody to go, how do you use that? I was like, yes, shut up. Yeah. That's a good part about working in Illustrator. You can reuse elements.
especially if you think you're going to use it in a bunch of different ways in
Yeah.
the first place. One of the most fun things that I do in Photoshop for no reason at all, sometimes, is tiling textures.
Oh yeah.
I love tiling textures.
Yeah.
It's just a thing you can get lost in. You take something, split it 4 ways, and all of a sudden the clone stamp tool to hide the edges, and it's
Yeah.
just, dear God, it's fun.
Yeah, because I keep everything in my pasteboards. I never delete shit. I can't tell you how many work pasteboards have just weird patterns that I've built to where I've used them in like a 1 inch by 1 inch, but I've built out 10 inch by 10 inch
Right.
repeating patterns. I was like, well, I don't know how big or small. I don't want to have to do the extra work to have to build this one. I can just hit do step and repeat, step and repeat.
Right.
And it's, yeah, that's the fun part is like, I want to make this look like waves. How can I make that work?
The computers are wonderful.
Yeah.
They do terribly glorious things.
So do you ever work in, now I'm trying to remember what Esther, since we've already name dropped Esther so much, shout out to Esther, the apps on like iPads and stuff.
So I'm not an Apple person, but that's not particularly by choice. It's just the devices I have around me. My
What's it called? What are
I have a drawing tablet that I really like. It's an XP Pen tablet.
Okay.
It's the most. It's honestly the fanciest single artistic tool I've ever had.
Okay.
It was really pricey. I got a really good deal on it. It was one of those things where it's like, oh shit, this is a really good deal. If I pass this up, I'm an idiot. Which is how I acquire some of the tools and toys that I have. I try to be very vigilant about internet marketplaces for such things.
Yeah.
But luckily, this one just kind of fell in my lap because a friend was selling it, and he found a different drawing tablet that he liked more. So, I got this one for a steal, and it's a 27-inch full touch color display, blah, blah, blah. Like I hook a HDMI
Holy
cord up to
hell.
to my laptop, and it's great. I prototype and set up um, hierarchy and composition are two of the things I use this for a lot. Especially if I'm just doodling to try and figure out a painting I want to do. And I know this tool is totally overkill for that, but I use it really efficiently. I will sit down and I'll lay out my canvas size on a blank image, and then I'll just play around with the elements and see how I want to structure or compose a painting. If it's something that isn't the freeform geometry silliness that I normally do. And it's very, very helpful. Anytime I do like large scale paintings or murals that are like 8 feet by 10, 8 feet by 32s, anything like that's pretty normal for what I put on a cinder block wall.
Yeah.
So I'll scale those out and put a grid on it and draw it out and see, just how they fit onto the pattern of the block wall and kind of make a mental image of that and then go do the wall.
Yeah.
But it's nice for a drawing tablet to be able to draw on the screen and not just draw on the tablet and see it on the screen.
Yeah.
And it's super helpful because watching your pen stroke where the pen stroke happens versus watching the pen stroke on a screen away from your pen stroke, there's something about that disconnect that doesn't jive for me, even though I've done it and I've used tablets that aren't screens. But
Yeah, because I think the Cintiq is one where you're not drawing, you're drawing and looking up, right?
well, there's two kinds of tablets. There's drawing screen tablets that are just like a literal screen with pressure
Yeah.
sensitivity that you draw on, or you just have a pad that is pressure sensitive that correlates to the screen on
Right.
your computer. That is what I'd always had experience with and had come pretty comfortable with. But the minute I drew on a screen,
Yeah.
it got better.
Game changer.
The user experience is more intuitive, and I still haven't programmed all the customizable buttons on this thing, but I really need to just to make just to be able to touch the keyboard less
Yeah.
is a serious improvement in workflow.
Although, so because of when I went to school, we were working off zip drives and jazz drives, and everything would always crash. And so when I'm working on the computer, my hand is always on the, I call it Open Apple S,
Yeah,
to hit save,
yeah,
because that's just how I was trained. But the awesome part about that is now, because I'm used to that, it's so easy for me to hit that and tab or any of the correlating buttons because my thumb is always on that.
The Control S save function is I move my left hand across that side of the keyboard, like I'm hitting it.
Yeah.
And there's not a whole lot of second guessing that particular action.
I had to build out a worksheet, like a job sheet, because I couldn't find like a job tracking platform that I liked. I was like, can I just ask my boss? I was like, can I just build one in Excel that I like?
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, totally. So I built it, and I went through the whole thing. Had 4 tabs of like, here's what I'm currently working on. Here's ongoing projects. Here's just ideas. Here's completed. I built everything out, and then I looked up. I was like, holy shit, I hadn't saved this. I hadn't even saved it to save to a file. And I was just like, oh God.
Hit the button now.
Oh God. And I hit save gingerly, and I think I just went ASDF and saved it. And I was like, okay, close it.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. But it literally was like 40.
The near heart attack you had right there.
Yeah, like 40 minutes worth of work. I was just like, oh shit. And I'm not going to remember any of this. Like,
well, and in some of the 3D classes that I had in school, save often was a mantra that some of the instructors really, because some of these programs are more finicky than others, and you just never know when shit's going to fail.
And the Adobe products have gotten even worse lately, in that they would just randomly.
That makes me so happy.
Yeah, that they just randomly crash.
I have such a gripe about Adobe switching to a digital disbursement method with their software.
Yeah.
And I understand the profit model, but you stop selling hard disks with reliable software.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
And now you can't do clean installs and stuff anymore. Like there's so many buried files. Like especially with, I edit my podcast in Audition, and there's one point on my laptop I was like, I'm running out of room. How am I running out of room? And I found out there was these drilled down backup files that were gigabytes of data. And I was like, what is this? I've deleted this because I have a backup hard drive where when I'm done with podcasts, I'll move it over to the backup. And I was like, I haven't had this file on my computer in a year and a half.
and it's still
got backup files. Same thing with Zoom. When I record Zoom, the minute I back it up on the hard drive, I need to start going back in and clean up my Zoom files because those files are massive.
Yeah, it's video and audio.
Yeah. But yeah.
It saddens me that this is the state of things.
Yeah. Yeah, that you got to think about drilled down backup files. But I'm also nitpicky enough to where I was like, okay, when I copy it in my Ramblin' Man folder, I'm going to copy it. I'm not going to move it in case anything goes wrong.
Right.
I have those source files.
Right, exactly.
But it's remembering, oh, crap, dummy. Go delete that.
Yeah.
That's been published and done. So get rid of it.
Well, I try to be... I try to keep all the raw audio files, and I try to keep all the actual finished product episodes.
Yeah.
I generally try to keep both file formats because if I want to go back and there's some audio in there I didn't really jive with, and I want to see if I can just edit it post-publish and find a better presentation of the audio in there somewhere. And then, I may re-upload it and replace it with the original file that gets, but not all the time. But the way my brain wants to organize things, I would like to have both sets of files.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, let's say I'm working on something in Illustrator. The organization of my files is insane because I worked at a print shop where I had to organize all of the files.
Yeah.
So I have job numbers for everything I work on. And if you go into folders, there will always be a main file, a PDF. Let's say it's a Illustrator file, a PDF. That's the one that goes to print or to proof, or PNG if it's going social. There will be an images folder with any correlating images. And then there will be a Omega symbol original files, and everything else gets dumped in there. And down in there will be Illustrator file, job number 1234, Draplin sticker, and then in the original files there'll be job number 1234, Draplin sticker _ version 0, version 1, version 3. Because I can't tell you how many times I would work somewhere and I would have a corrupt file, and to be able to go and pull that old file saved my ass.
Yeah, and in my professional life, the organization of the server where the boss and I communicate about, print files and
Yeah.
customer files and all that organization, he's done a really good job setting all that up. So I don't have a ridiculous
Yeah.
like sea of bullshit to wade through to find what I'm trying to do, and that's really nice.
Well, in the print shop, the owner would make me burn a copy of every job to a CD, and he would say burn 2 copies. 1 copy goes in the job folder, and 1 copy goes into a box. And when you get a full box, I will take those to my house.
Yeah,
So if this place ever burned down, we have those.
everything's cataloged.
Offsite.
Yeah.
Now, years later, I found out CD lifespans for those only last like 7 years.
Well, hopefully.
Hopefully.
You're not needing
So
9
I have
years.
files. So I have tons of CDs. I was like, oh, these CDs are no good because they're 20 years old.
Right.
I was like, well, that's a bummer.
If I'm going to put a laser on this, it's not going to work.
Yeah. But I didn't know that when I was doing that.
Well, I mean, I think that's something that most people skip over
Yeah.
info wise. But I had a scenario happen on this old shindig when I was interviewing somebody, and her father sort of interrupted the conversation. They knocked on the door. Hey, blah blah blah. No big deal, obviously. Like I don't care. Like I'd hit the pause button if he had something to say. But he's like, no, do the thing. But it turns out that he passed away not too long after, and that was, unless he left her a voicemail or something, that was the last instance of this gentleman's recorded voice. And of course, I cut that out for the presentation of the episode. But it's nice that I was able to maintain that. And have that in its raw form.
That's awesome.
So that's probably been one of the most touching experiences. Look back, hindsight 2020. Like, oh shit! Like this might be the last example of this man's living recorded voice, and that's been kind of neat and morbid and lovely all at the same time.
I don't have it here, but a good friend of mine passed away around Christmas time. Brandon Gibson.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know Brandon?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. So I would do a benefit show every year at Central Collective called Happy Knoxville Days, where people would pay to come, local musicians singing Christmas songs. And then 100% of the money went to the Love Kitchen. Brandon Gibson, like 3 years in a row, opened it up with just him singing. So I found those videos because I just did like a mega cut at the end, thanking everybody. And I found those videos and uploaded them to YouTube. I was like, here are these videos if anybody wants them. And then I started going through. I was like, oh, I recorded like 3 or 4 radio shows with him. I recorded a Ramblin' Man where we did Christmas songs back and forth, where we were fighting against one another for Christmas songs. And it was just like, I'm happy I have those records because Brandon was a fucking amazing dude.
Right, yeah, definitely.
And that had such a big impact on everybody. And there was part of me when I posted those YouTube videos, I was like, am I taking advantage? I was like, no, I'm just sharing something that 99% of the people who knew him never saw.
Right.
Because they didn't come to Happy Knoxville Days.
Right.
They didn't see this shit.
So it was a privilege and a luxury for you to be able to share that.
Yeah. To be able to go onto a backup hard drive and find those files. And it was never a full song. It was always like 45 seconds. I think the longest one I got was like a minute and a half or something. I was like, but here are 3 or 4 videos. And I've left them on my Dropbox. So it's like, if anybody ever wanted these, here they are. Like, yeah, saving those files, you never know.
Well, and I see Bill Foster going through his stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge fan of Bill's creative output, and his photographic eye just tickles the shit out of me. And he went through, I don't know how many thousands of pictures and pulled out pictures of Brandon and posted them all over Facebook, and just to share for people to take joy in.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a wonderful, wonderful thing.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many of my friends still have their profile pictures set of a photo of them and Brandon.
I mean, he took pictures with everybody.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know if it's not. Shit, I should change it back. My cover image on Facebook forever was Brandon, Art Carmichael, and I, Dale and Sean at Central Collective. They would do a winter formal or a spring formal where we'd all get dressed.
Yeah.
And if you can imagine, I would wear a 3-piece suit. And go to this in my like hoodie and shorts in the wintertime.
I don't remember the last time I wore a 3-piece suit.
I bought that 3-piece suit just for that formal.
Hell yeah.
I went to J.C. Penney, spent a good $180.
There you go.
But honestly, a big reason I got it is because of Dave Bautista in that shitty Spectre film. I liked how the big dude in a well-tailored suit.
Yeah, a well-tailored suit makes everybody look
Like,
good as
and
hell.
I felt more confident in myself in wearing that damn thing. But I would wear it to there, and there was a photo of Brandon, Art Carmichael, and I where we all posed, and I'm like doing this, and Brandon's over, and we all just look like suave motherfuckers.
Right,
I don't
yeah.
know. And I was like, this is one of my favorite photos ever, and it would be my cover. It was my cover photo forever because I was like, this photo, and everybody commented was like, when does this album drop? This is
Right, yeah.
amazing. I was like, yeah, we don't take no shit. Like this is great.
That's amazing.
Yeah. There's also another one of me holding Art Carmichael like Kate Winslet and Leo from Titanic.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I think one of him, Art Carmichael, stroking my beard as I'm kissing the top of his head because he comes up to like my chest. I was like, yeah.
Sounds like a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. God. I hate photos of myself, so I try to do weird shit to not actually be in the photo.
Well, that's when you just need to carry the camera around.
Yeah, yeah. Post pandemic, I would see pictures of myself. I was like, I think I forgot how to smile during the pandemic.
Yeah, I think a lot of people forgot how to do a lot of things, but I technically I work in an essential industry as advertising and signage and communication. I suppose that we both fall under that umbrella.
Yeah.
But my boss, he was like, "Hey, go home. I don't know how this is going to go."
Well, during it, I was working for myself, but I found out the insurance company, they had always been, no, you have to come in the office. You have to do this. And the minute all that happened and shit started hitting the fan, the owner was like, we got to readdress how we do things.
Yeah.
And so sent people home. But there it's like office building with everybody having their own individual offices, so you can cordon off. So even now, we're on, I don't know what we are. We're not on the tail end. It's still happening. We're ignoring it.
We living in it now.
But even now, it's like, oh, you can work from home 3 days a week if you want to. You just won't have an office. You have to give up your office because we're expanding so much. He was like, but if you want to work home 2 days a week, you can totally work home 2 days a week.
Well, one of the things that really, one of the ways I kept myself busy was, I just dove into work. You know, I just started painting everything.
Yeah.
I think I was out of work, quote unquote. I was still employed. I just wasn't.
Yeah.
Wasn't drawing a check and wasn't at work. That whole thing. It's not like I lost my job. My boss just didn't know how shit was going to pan out. So he's like, "Hey, look, I'm gonna keep the lights on, but you go home for our safety." In the 6 weeks, that's 42 days. I made 38 paintings or something like that.
Holy shit!
Yeah, I was hot and heavy on it.
Okay.
And a lot of those things were what I sold the following summer and the summer after that, and the work I did in those 6 weeks put food on my table for the next 2 years almost to some degree. Not that they were my consistent income, but I still have some of those paintings, and I've sold like 95% of them.
I should have interviewed you. So during the early part of the pandemic, I did these Instagram lives where I'd interview people. Uncertain creativity or something like that. It's like, how are you dealing with being creative in the face of just not knowing what the hell's going on?
Well, that also spawned the whole me podcasting thing because, town was locked down. So Knoxville shut down on my birthday, which was some fuck shit. March 23rd, pricks. I was supposed to go to a concert, everything. I had a day lined up. I was ready to go. And I was at work, and one of my friends texted me. He's like, "Hey, they're canceling this concert because of the pandemic." And here I was, pissed off. It was like 11:30. Hadn't even eaten lunch yet.
Yeah.
Madder than hell. And then all of a sudden, like 3 hours later, it was like 3:30, 4 o'clock. City of Knoxville, blah, blah, blah. This, that, and the other. And I was like, son of a bitch. What am I going to do today?
Yeah.
It's my fucking birthday.
Yeah.
So what I did was I went home, and I ate cake. And I ate pie, and I got on Facebook Live because nobody else could do anything else. So I was like, if y'all normally I'll like say, hey, I'm posted up at this restaurant, come have dinner and drinks, just filter in as you can. But I gorged myself on cheesecake and double chocolate pie, and just sat there and talked to my friends or whoever wanted to drop in and say hi for like 45 minutes, and admitted that it was really shitty the way the world was acting today. But here we are. We have the luxury of this.
Yeah.
And I tried to always maintain a not so much a sunny disposition about it, but be keenly aware of the silver lining.
Yeah. Well, I remember. So the week of the shutdown. So I remember it being March 13th. March 13th, because I had tickets to see Silver Sun Pickups at the Millen Mine, and
I had tickets to see motherfucking Pigeon Plants ping pong.
Oh shit!
And I was so mad.
So that week, I go to a ton of shows, and I had gone to 4 shows that week, and the March 13th was on a Friday, and it was March 12th, and I'd driven to Asheville to see the Christy Lynn Band's record release show. So I go over there. I'm standing there seeing it, and I'm texting with a friend of mine, Stanton.
Which I need to get on the KAAMP at some point. I like that gentleman a lot.
So I was texting with him about Postmodern Spirits, and I was just like, oh shit, man. I was like, how's it going? Like, what are you thinking about all this? This was on Thursday. And he was like, well, a lot of downtown restaurants are fucked.
Yeah.
Because they cancel Big Ears, and people don't make a lot of money at the tail end of the fourth quarter or all of the first quarter, and Big Ears is how they make up all that money.
But to-go drinks.
Yeah. So he's the one who started that. Spoiler alert. Well, what I was going to say is, so he and I are texting. I was like, this ain't right. I was like, here's what we'll do. I'm going to start an initiative because I can do design, I can do marketing. I was like, I got a friend who I can do PR, but I have a friend who's better at PR. I was like, we're going to do support downtown Knoxville for the weekend of Big Ears. It's like, we're going to try and get, why is everyone texting me while I'm on the phone? Most Monday nights, my phone is just sitting here silent. And all of a sudden tonight.
Well, it's because we're doing a thing, obviously.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw, but my damn phone almost fell off because it kept.
Was it? No, I didn't see that.
Like I had to push it back. There, you're getting a theater of the mind at home, kids. So I texted him Thursday night, and I was like, "We got to do this." And I'm texting my friend Aaron Donovan, the PR person. I was like, "We're going to do this." And I wake up Friday morning a little bit late because I was tired from driving to Asheville. I'm sitting on the couch on my laptop. I'm building the artwork. I'm building the page. I'm doing everything. I got the news on. I'm like, what the fuck is going on in the world? And that's when everything started. Yeah. Everything started on the 13th.
Right, but it took a solid 10 days before Knox County was like, hey, guys,
hell yeah.
We should really.
But I'm sitting there watching this going, I don't know that we're going to be able to do this that weekend. And I just keep going and keep working on it. And then all of a sudden, it's just hit me. I was like,
this has now become irrelevant.
Well, it's like, but it's also like 1 o'clock. I'm like, looking at the Millen Mines page, it's like, are they canceling the Silver Sun Pickup Show? Hey, by like 3 o'clock, I'm like, cancel this show. I don't want to go. Because this sounds like scary shit.
The Millen Mine didn't cancel the show. The band canceled the show in this instance. So I was just like, man, I get it, but shit, I'd waited like 3 years to see this band. I fucked up a lot.
Yeah.
When I was a younger man and didn't go see bands because I didn't know I'd be into them. But when I figured out I was into pigeons playing ping pong, I realized that I had like a dozen other opportunities to go see them, but I passed them up because I didn't know who the hell they were.
Yeah.
Shame on Pass Thomas. Shame. But, this was the time. I'd had tickets for like 4 months. I was ready to go.
Yeah.
And then the world conspired against me.
And they haven't come back, have they?
They have.
Oh, they did.
They were with the Motet at the Millen Mine last summer.
Oh, okay.
And it was amazing.
Silver Sun Pickups. They canceled the show. Doors had just opened. And they canceled the show. And I'm sitting there going, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. And finally at like 7:05 or something like that, they were like, oh, we're going to cancel the show tonight. I was like, hey, dumbasses, you should have done this at like 6 o'clock or something. Like, And yeah, and at some point, like 2 or 3, I texted Aaron and Stanton. I was like, I don't think we're going to be able to do this.
Right.
And they were both like, Aaron, I think, was saying, I didn't want to say that to you, but I wasn't planning on going. Like, she was like, no. She was like, you're out of your mind. You're trying to plan a massive thing downtown.
Downtown get together, support local business.
But so you had to create crazy creative output. Like, I sunk into that couch.
Well, I mean, that's not to say I didn't become a couch potato.
Okay.
It's just that I had zero expectations of my time.
Yeah.
So then suddenly I could do whatever the fuck I wanted because I didn't have to sell my soul for 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
And that's a bit harsh because I enjoy my job. But, capitalism doesn't always make itself most conducive to free-form creative expression whenever you please. And since I had the luxury of this, I fully capitalized.
Okay.
I wasn't worried about not going back to work because I knew that I would go back to work.
Well, I think that's the difference of working for myself. I collapsed. Excuse me. And it's so stupid. But the thing that actually got me out of that funk was fucking Tiger King. Tiger King.
That got a lot of people out of slumps.
I watched that entire thing in one day and laughed my ass off. And I was like, all right, I got to get up and get to work.
I had a text message thread with like a dozen of my friends. We were all just going through it at our own pace. Just like, did you see this bullshit? And then we'd all be like, yeah, he married both of those guys. And then, oh, guess what, motherfuckers? And then, the whole 9 yards. It's just like a constant stream of consciousness that involved this thing between me and 11 other people.
I think it was my friend Sasha and I were both watching at the same time, and she was just a little ahead of me, and she was like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "Shut up! I haven't got there yet." Like, but
I still see bumper stickers. That bitch Carol Baskin.
So but that got me out of it, and that's when I started doing the creative uncertainty thing, where I just started. Stanton did one. My friend Hannah up in Cleveland, Ohio, did one. Gerald Witt here in town did. Like, I did a bunch of them, and they were great because I was enjoying hearing other people hear like uncertainty and being scared.
Well, the thing that out of that spurred me, I really enjoy the art scene that Knoxville has, and just in spite of all the reasons that I could choose not to enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I was like, damn, nobody's going to First Fridays.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to the museums. Nobody's doing whatever it would be out and about in public. So how do I, as just me, create a space for people to discover art and artists? And this was the method I chose to do that. And, selfishly, I enjoy doing this.
Yeah.
But selflessly, I enjoy sharing it as well.
Yeah.
So the flip sides of that coin complement each other in a way that don't cause me any friction whatsoever. And like I said earlier, it's been nothing but a privilege to sit down and talk to people about how they do what they do. And I think creatively, personally, professionally, as a creative person, this has been one of the most fruitful endeavors I've undertaken as a creative person across the board. Outside of my tangible art and paintings and 3D whatevers, the art of communion and talking about creativity has been one of the most enriching things that I've done with my time and myself as a person in the last 3 years.
That's awesome. You just remind me, there's something that I never talk about with Ramblin' Man. I used to talk about in the early days, but I haven't in a while, is my friend Erin Donovan. She goes to the Czech Republic and goes mountain biking. Nobody's going to hear that story. Like, she's going to tell little snippets a little bit when she gets back, and then slowly over time it'll just fade away. But to be able to record and capture that moment of what she was feeling right when she got back, that always juiced me up.
Well, the magic is there because she's still high on the experience and really expressive about it, and not like it's still... The experience hasn't dulled with time and memory.
Yeah.
You were able to capture it fresh, which is its own luxury as well.
Well, that's why the episode with Sean and I, where I was talking about dudes making fast friends in bars and cigar shops, that's why I ended up talking the whole time, because I was literally a day back.
You got the stories.
And I was just like, Jones.
Must release all the information. Yeah. So And it pleases me to be able to talk passionately with other people that do similar
Yeah.
things. And I will, unless I just completely don't jive with whoever it is, I really won't mind to sit down and talk to anybody about making media about art or around art or podcasting, because like I said earlier, it's just such a unique thing that everybody does so differently that I just enjoy picking their brain about it.
Yeah.
It's too much fun.
Yeah.
And me being the social person I am, selfishly enjoy this, even if there were no microphones. So I'll be damned, you know.
Well, and for me, I think the way I've been approaching interviewing artists is trying to figure out the weird circuitous route that people have gotten there.
Oh, but
Because
to expand on that, that's everybody with everything.
yeah.
You know, not so much
Oh yeah, that's
to
true.
take away from the scope of your intended conversation, but uh, life is really funny and it
Yeah.
meanders quite a bit. And if you ask one person how they got there and the other person how they got to the same place, the two answers are going to be so very different,
So
and that's beautiful.
I think I mentioned like I'm going to be on another podcast Saturday. We're recording it live. Diane Gibbs, Creatives Ignite, which I'll recommend. She's not here. She's in Alabama. But if I can remember, I will connect you too because I think you ought to be on hers.
Oh, I would happily do
She, like, very prepared. She's the one who sent me the questionnaire. It was like,
Yeah.
are there anything? But we did a pre-test the other day, and this actually goes back, God bless. Esther, you are getting nothing but love. This is what you do, Esther, when you connect to people. You're going to get shout-outs galore. But I told Esther this on my podcast with her. I was like, I have the weirdest, like, graduating high school with 4 years of print shop and design experience to starting college, or actually starting working at Taco Bell. That period is so weird. And Diane, she was like, is there anything you want to talk about? I was like, I need you to just say, what was the summer of 96 like? Because I will go on a tear of just how weird, the weird job offers I got that just kept going down to where then it was after a certain point I was like, I couldn't get a job. Like I would go apply at like Walmart and Target, and they're like, well, you don't have enough job experience. And I was
But
like,
I've got 4 years of experience doing this professional thing right here.
yeah, but it was in high school, so
Right,
they didn't
so,
count it. But I also worked at a ballpark to where I worked more hours at the ballpark than I work now. Like I would work every night. I would work the fields, and then I would scorekeep from like 4 o'clock to 11 o'clock, and then weekends it would be 7 in the morning till 11 o'clock at night.
So,
Like
you learned a lot. Did you learn a lot about yourself when you did these jobs you didn't particularly care for? Because I did.
those, yeah, there's still tools I learned from Taco Bell that I still use today. That's why I like to work quick and efficiently.
Yeah, I had a job as an executive chef at a biker bar in some small town between here and the North Carolina border that
Okay.
shall remain unnamed. Not that it's a bad place. It's just that I don't have favorable things to say about my experience there.
Okay.
I worked under the table, the only chef there from breakfast to last call. It was a mess. And I was taller than the trailer kitchen they stuck me in to cook everything.
Oh yeah.
Um,
They shoved me in the drive-through, which the thing to
you had to
hold
bend down into the window.
the racks to hold like cups and stuff above me went to my neck, and I was like, I could damn near sit on the floor and do this job.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
That was a large that that experience offered me a large amount of introspection and friction in a way that was healthy. Like, hey, I don't like this. Why do I not like this? How am I going to make it to where I either like this or remove myself from this to like it, to do something better I like more. And the best part about this particular gig is that I would live on campus at the place from Thursday to Sunday. But how the living would happen, air quotes, is I would set up my tent on a deck that was on the shore of the river, and I would wake up every morning with Canadian geese being my alarm clock. And I would open up the zipper of my tent, and I would see the sun beaming down on the French Broad, and these Canadian geese warming and sunning themselves on a rock in the middle of the river.
That's amazing.
And that silver lining was the only silver lining for this entire experience. But waking up to that 4 days a week for like 5 months, 4 months, whatever it was I was there, I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
It was gorgeous.
So not totally similar, but my friend Greg White, I met in college. I've been watching Super Bowl with for 25 years. We had 25 years this year. There's a point where his cousin's grandmother, good Lord, that's some East Tennessee shit.
Yeah.
His cousin's grandmother.
That lives in the house down by the crooked tree next to the big rock.
Where turn left where the Kaz Walker used to be.
Yes.
Because I know I've already said once where the Kmart used to be. Had a cabin on Watts Bar.
Mm-hmm.
And so they used to just go and blow out. They would go like when they were in college, they would leave class on Thursday and stay through Sunday night and then try to get back to Knoxville to go to school. So
try.
Yeah. So I got in on the tail end of this to where we still did it. I got invited and we still did it like 4 years, maybe 5 years, but it kept whittling down to just like essentially a day or two, which sucked. But when I went, I am not an early morning person, but I would wake up before everyone else. I would wake up at like 6:30 and there was the water right there and a dock. I would walk down there with a fishing pole, a big cup of milk at 6 a.m. in like June when the weather in the morning is the best.
Yeah.
The absolute best. And just sit there and hear the world waking up.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was before the wave runners were going and all that bullshit. And I would just sit down there by myself. And then as the years wore on, there were some times where I was like, it would be raining or something, and I would sit up in the screened-in porch. And one of the times, one of the wives of one of the guys came down and sat, and we just sat there and chatted. And it was lovely.
Yeah.
It's the greatest thing.
Lovely's an amazing adjective for that.
And I will, same thing. I will, that isn't the same as working and that being the positive
but
of the day.
silver lining here is the parallel.
Yeah, is that it was just like, I will never forget those moments. Those are moments that are etched in my brain.
Mm.
And I've said this, so Sean and I have talked like when we work for ourselves, there were times on a Tuesday night where we'd get together smoking cigars. We'd meet at 9. We would still be smoking cigars at 3 a.m, trying to figure out which director has the best 3-film run in a row. And we figured it out, and I've got 2 for you. Rob Reiner and Penny Marshall.
How is Ridley Scott not on this list?
In a row. Because there's a lot of them, like Spielberg and stuff, that'll have 2 and
then a stinker.
Yeah. But Penny Marshall and Rob Reiner in the 80s, because Penny Marshall had like, I'm trying to remember, it was like Big, Awakenings, and A League of Their Own. And it's hard
A League of Their Own is an amazing movie.
It's hard to beat those 3. And Rob Reiner, same way, where it's like, he actually had like 5 in a row. Where it was like going from Spinal Tap all the way to American President. Like
Spinal Tap's an amazing
movie.
You know what? Okay, I'll answer this real quick. I'm very curious what Rian Johnson's next movie is going to be.
Yeah.
I'm so very curious because I've greatly enjoyed both these Knives Out films.
Yeah.
Creatively, I enjoy very intertwined plots that slowly reveal themselves.
Yeah.
And both of those movies do exactly that.
I love that both of them have a major twist right in the middle. Especially with the first one, it was like, oh shit, you're going to tell us how this happened. Right in the middle. Mm-hmm. Like, that was amazing.
And then the left turn.
Yeah. So Sean and I were up till 3 a.m, and there were some times where I had a meeting at like 9 or 10 a.m. And I told him, there was one time he's like, oh shit, you need to get going. I was like, I'm never going to regret staying here till 3 a.m.
doing this right now.
No. Yeah. I was like, I won't remember being tired in the morning because I don't give a shit.
But 10 years from now, when I think back on this night right here, I'm going to think back about how much you and I enjoyed ourselves doing this right now, here. Yeah.
We're at like 11:30. We were like, I wonder who did have the best 3. And then it went from there till 3 a.m. And it was like, he was like, oh shit, what about this guy? And I'd be like, oh fuck yeah, let me look that up. And then I'd be like, oh shit, Michael Mann. Michael Mann's got to have an impressive run because you go Last Mohicans or even like Manhunter, Last Mohicans, Heat, The Inside. Like, it's crazy. But I still think Rob Reiner and Penny Marshall had anyway. But yeah, like yeah, Ryan Johnson's will be, but I don't regret those moments.
No, not at all.
Now the
and
sad
that's really
part,
the point here.
yeah, now the sad part is having a job. I'm like, I can't do that shit anymore. I am such a. So here's another thing that happened in the pandemic. There was a point where I had no work, I had no meetings, I had no prospects, and I was trying to get work, anything, and it just wasn't happening because everything was still shut down. And there was finally a point I was like, why am I setting my alarm for 9 o'clock in the morning?
I ain't got shit to wake up for.
So I just said,
what am I doing?
I'm going to wake up whenever my body naturally feels like, and some mornings it was 8:30.
Yeah.
And sometimes it was 12:45.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the best I've felt in a long time.
So people that listen to this shit have heard me say this a lot, but I'll tell you because this is relevant right now. My premium creative mode comes after like 5 days of not doing shit.
Oh, okay.
Because that's enough time for my head and my body to get out of this cycle of, oh, yeah, I gotta go to work, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So once I get out of that, like I'll wake up in the morning, it'll be between 7:30 and 9 o'clock. I'll work till 2 or 3 o'clock. I'll grab like a glass of water, maybe a light snack, and just sit down and do, and get lost in it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, I'm human, I'm thirsty, I'm hungry, I have a headache, I need to go pee, whatever.
Yeah.
I'll come back to because my body is like, hey, do shit for me.
Yeah.
Because you're hungry.
Yeah.
And then I'll meander about society or pay bills or whatever, do the normal shit after I come out of the fog of painting or crafting or whatever it was I was doing. And that's what a good creative day looks like for me. But I hate that it takes me 4 or 5 days to get into that cycle because it'd be a lot more convenient if it didn't.
Yeah.
But it does. Well, but I can't really complain about how my creativity works through me. In other aspects, because I can spend 4 or 5 hours in an evening or on a Saturday doing what I want to do just fine, but I feel way more at home in my creative process when I have real time to ease into it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's a website I need to work on now that I do have this issue every once in a while. I was like, that's going to take me a lot of time. So I'll come home from work. I was like, I don't have it in me tonight.
Yeah.
I just don't have the brain. And then sometimes I'll wake up on the weekend. I was like, I don't have it. I was like, I've got to get this thing done. But I know at bare minimum to get it up and going, I'm going to need at least 4 to 5 hours. So I've got to figure out when to block off 4 to 5 hours to just be like, I have to get this done.
Yep.
But it's... I thought I heard someone talking out there. So another weird thing is apparently my windows or walls are very thin because everyone's like my neighbor... I'm going to quiet down in case she can actually hear me. Make sure I'm picking up. My neighbor the other night was on the phone screaming at somebody, and I could hear her clear as day. And I was like,
with expletives?
Yeah. And I was like, if I can hear her, that means she can hear me. Maybe I need to turn everything down a little bit.
No. You just keep each other's secrets. That's a good neighborly move right there.
4 days. So when working for myself, the days I really loved were the days where it's like, oh, I got a check in the mail. And I'd be like, oh, I need to take a shower and go. Or I have a meeting in the middle of the day. To where it's like, I would get up and I would feel more task oriented because I was like, I need to answer these 3 emails. And then I got to get moving because I got to do this. And then when I would get back, I would usually be jazzed up and I'd be like, okay, let's go ahead and knock this, and this. And those were the days that were good for me. You asked that on the last one, and I totally screwed that up.
Well, I mean, we have an answer now.
Yeah. Toward those
would be 4 hours to get here.
Yeah. 2 hours and 57 minutes at this point that we can finally end the podcast because we finally answered the first question. Okay, well, that's question 1. Question 2. But when I work for myself, those were the good days. Because I remember there was one project I was working on, a company I was doing work for handed me an external hard drive with, I've varied this over the years because I can't remember how many hours it was. I think it was 40 hours worth or 50 hours worth of video that they wanted me to look through all of that and edit down 2 sets of commercials. 30 seconds, 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 15 seconds. But I was like, I'm going to have to watch all this footage. They're like, that's fine. We'll pay you for all that.
Bill us for the hours. Like,
and immediately I was like, well, I just made all my mortgage payments for an entire year. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then I still had to edit the damn videos. But I woke up I would immediately start coffee, get a bowl of cereal or oatmeal, come into my computer, play.
Yep.
Start watching it. Would do that all day, would earmark the stuff I needed, would get up, would go get dinner, come back, still do it. But I would do that every day from 9:45 a.m. to usually 1:30 in the morning. I would go to bed.
And that was a great rhythm for you to do that, right?
I did that 3 days in a row.
And then?
I did not shower. I did not anything. I just got up and did that exact same thing. And at the end of 3 days, I think it was around 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night, I just started blinking. I was like, what the fuck? And I hopped in the shower. And that's when Merchants of Beer had John Stansel's cigars on the far end.
Yeah.
And I went down there because it was like a Friday night, and I knew they were open till 1 a.m. And I sat there just like...
Like, this is the first time I've been in public in days.
This is the first time I've had a shower in 3 days. Like, I was dying. And Kevin and John were in there like, are you okay? You seem a little wired. I was like, I haven't left my office in 3 days.
Trust me, I'm better now.
I was like, holy shit. And they were just like, okay.
Goodness.
And then that got me in a cycle where I can't tell you how many times I would go down there on a Thursday or Friday or Saturday night when they were open late. And I would get there at 11 p.m. And Kevin would look at me and go, you finally done with work? I was like, at least for tonight.
As done as I'm going to be today.
Yeah. And I just sat there and I would smoke cigars for like 2.5 hours. And there were times where like, we got to clean up. You can stick around, finish your cigars. Like, awesome. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Like, or if you still got some left, stay outside. Nobody cares.
Right.
It's like, cool, because I don't have to get up in the morning. I just have to get up in the morning. And it was awesome. Like, it was, but yeah, that 1 3-day period, I still remember to this day. Same thing of, there was one time where I came home on like a Friday and the first season of True Detective had just ended.
Yo! That show is amazing.
So I take that back. I had started watching it on Thursday night.
Sorry for you headphone listeners.
So it was what, like 10, 12 hours of TV?
Yeah, I think it was 10 episodes.
10 episodes, so 10 hours. So I started watching it Thursday night, but started watching it late. So I watched like 3 episodes. And then Friday night, I started watching it. And by the time I ended the last episode, it was 1 in the morning. And I shit you not, I was laying on that couch right there. That show ended in that weird fucked up way of them looking up at the stars. And I swear to God, the minute the credit came up, I stood up dramatically. I walked to my front door. I threw open my front door and walked and just stood barefoot in my front yard and just went...
Yeah.
And I was just like, holy shit.
So let's talk about the glory of this television program, and then let's have a concise end to this conversation. I wholeheartedly believe in my heart of hearts that has consumed a ton of TV media.
Yeah.
That is one of the best TV shows, period, ever.
So it's a weird thing. I can give you 5 answers. I rewatched Cheers from the beginning, and that shit holds up on a level you don't even understand.
Well, that's because it's a people-oriented program.
But they would have an entire season arc.
Yeah.
And there were things like Cliff would make a joke in episode 6 of season 1, and it came back season 13 of season 3, episode 13, where he made a comment about going to Florida. I was like, holy shit, I remember that in season 1. Like, so the 4 I have for you: True Detective season 1, Atlanta season 1.
Atlanta's good.
Season 2 was okay. Season 3 was awful. I haven't watched season 4 yet. Ted Lasso season 1.
I haven't watched Ted Lasso yet.
I have watched season 1 5 times. And the other one is The Weird Outlier. And I recently rewatched it. And finally on this time, I was like, it's not as good as I remember, even though I've watched it like 10 times. There's a show in the 90s called Due South. And I still think season 1 is one of the best things ever on TV.
I never saw that.
Because they took chances. It's about a Canadian Mountie that his father dies, gets killed, and he tracks the person who killed him to Chicago. So he comes and he...
Due South.
Yeah, and he's a member of the Canadian consulate, and he befriends a Chicago police officer that's the detective on his dad's case, and
Ah.
it's the two of them buddy cop. But it takes so many chances and does so much weird shit. And season 1 is tremendous. Although rewatching it, I was like, "This is not good. This is not good." But
You were finally able to be objective.
True Detective, like I think those are like 5 things to where even like I love West Wing. I've watched West Wing from beginning to end 7 times. There is not a season of that is perfect television, and I love that show. But yeah, you are right. That True Detective season 1.
It is one of the most well crafted bit of media destined for
Yeah.
TV. And that's from the score and the opening sequence to the last spoken word and the last scene of the last episode. It's fucking magnetic.
I have gone on.
I used to have watch parties when the new episode would come out. I'd go down to my buddy's house and be like, "Hey, it's whatever night.
Yeah.
It comes on tonight. We're gonna watch that, right?" And we would
Yeah.
and we did it. After the second episode, we're like, "Oh yeah, this is what we're doing. This is the ritual.
Yeah.
We're gonna get together and watch True Detective."
That I have rewatched that scene where they go outside the hospital. That last episode, I can't tell you how many times on YouTube. Like that scene alone is like one of the greatest scenes ever in television.
Yeah, and also Rusty's dialogue when he's talking about how time is a flat circle.
Yeah.
I want Alamo or Lone Star, nothing snooty, and I love that he is so lawfully aware in that scene that he knows that as soon as he starts drinking, none of that is admissible in court.
Yeah.
And that's when he really lays it on.
Yeah.
After he starts drinking, because he's like, it's noon on a Thursday. It's time for me to start drinking. Y'all don't get to interrupt that.
Yeah.
That's like the perfect functioning alcoholic thing to say for his character. But I don't know how long this script was worked on before it got picked up for TV, but it seems like every character and how they all interact was so spot on and well knitted together that the plot was airtight until it showed you a hole.
Yeah.
And not that there are any like serious gaping plot holes, but it was so well put together that it held you by the hand and walked you through the story in a way that you still had no idea what was coming next.
Yeah.
It's like walking down a dark hallway being led by a stranger and you were happy about it.
Oh my God.
I have such love for this program.
It has been on my rewatch list forever.
Same, and it'll always be there.
Yeah. I hate to say I'll give you 3 more TV shows.
All right.
Because I can't not mention them. The Wire
Yeah, that's got to be on everybody's list. Let's be honest about that.
and Breaking Bad.
I haven't. Okay, so full disclosure, I haven't watched through both of those.
Okay.
But I have watched a lot of both of those and enjoyed every minute of.
Michael K. Williams. So 2 things about Michael K. Williams. When he passed away, for like 4 days, all I did was watch Wire clips. And it took all I had not to just pop them in and start watching them from the beginning. He also, I do a Motivational Monday every Monday, February, for Feral Giant. I've not missed a Monday on that.
Hey.
I've not missed a Monday on that. I quoted him. He screenshotted it, shared it to his Instagram.
Nice.
That was a highlight.
I would say so.
And he said something like, "Thanks to my brother Feral Giant for point." I was like, "What the fuck?" Like, Breaking Bad. The third one I was going to say is Justified.
That's a great TV show too.
Like the arcs, the fact that same thing that they did season-long arcs, and the one with Margot Martindale, the woman, the grandma, that season, holy Jesus!
Also, damn, what's his face?
Walton Goggins.
Yes, he is such a oh God.
That is one of the best pairings of writer and actor ever.
I genuinely enjoy that man's work. I don't care what character he's playing. He puts life into every character.
So here's when I feel guilty. I still have not started watching Righteous Gemstones.
I haven't either.
Because I want it to be over before I watch all
I'm
of
not going to hold that one over your head.
Yeah. I will say Eastbound and Down, I waited till it was all over, and I watched it in one whack, and I was like,
The Fixins? Yes.
The Fixins! You can get the Fixins.
And the Panty Dropper.
Yeah.
I had there. Okay, so every now and again at work, I get to swing my dick around and talk design with my boss because
Okay.
he's the lead designer, but I'm the senior. I'm the most senior
Okay.
employee. So every now and again, I get to be like, "Hey, we should really do this," and he'll listen to me just a little bit.
Yeah.
So we got this guy's jet ski in.
I really like it.
We got this guy's jet ski in, and he's a customer that we really like, and he allows us a little creative freedom with his project. So I was like, "Hey, Lou, we're gonna do this and this with this thing, right? And it's gonna be a lot of purple." And he's like, "Yeah." It's like, "You know what we should do?" And he's like, "No, what should we do?" I said, "Panty dropper." And he's like, "What the fuck is panty dropper?" I said, "You need to go home and tow a jet ski with a lime green Viper and get back to me after you've watched Eastbound and Down." Eastbound and Down, the main character, he has a jet ski called the Panty Dropper, and it is purple and cheetah print. So I managed to get some cheetah print registration numbers on this damn watercraft, and that's just a little thing that made me so happy because the other color we put on this thing was like a color shifty blue, green, purple.
Okay.
So there was enough purple there to make me be like, "Oh yeah, it's fucking cheetah print." Like
That's amazing. That I just on Twitter today I saw a clip and it was I can't remember his last name, but it was Will Ferrell's character Ashley.
Yeah.
Where it was him standing there talking to Craig Robinson and Danny McBride, and they cannot keep a straight face. And he was talking about
the bloopers from all those things.
It was a blooper,
gold.
and he was talking about how he was making love to his wife, and he's like, "And I turned the heat up to 85 to make it sweaty in there," and he just keeps going on, and he's like, "And then we hear a noise, and my son had walked in, and my wife said, 'Oh God, we gotta stop.'" He said, "Let the boy watch." How's he going to learn? I learned by watching my daddy, and he learned by watching his dad. Let the boy watch. And it was just like Craig Robinson and Dave McGuire just dying. I was like, and even Will Ferrell is cracking up.
You can see it on his face.
I was like, it's good if Will Ferrell is cracking up because he never breaks.
Well, it's like that scene in the Monty Python movie or whatever it was, where the Roman guys yelling at the Roman soldiers.
Oh yeah.
And you can just see them trying so hard not to break.
Oh,
character.
yeah.
Biggest dickus, and the guy's just like,
oh, yeah. One of my favorite SNLs is there was one, and it was, I can't remember who the middle person was, but it was talking about alien abductions, and it was Ryan Gosling and Kate McKinnon on the end. And Ryan Gosling could not keep it together. He was absolutely dying.
It would be hard for me to keep it together around Kate McKinnon.
And Kate McKinnon
she's
sitting there,
fucking hilarious,
wide-legged, hand down her pants, just like, and that alien, and just straight as an arrow. And Ryan Gosling is just fucking dying. And here's a little bit of homework. One of my favorite shows is the Graham Norton show.
I dig
the interview. Just go in there and search Greg. I think it's Greg Davies. He's this big, tall comedian dude. But there was one episode where it was Jodie Foster, Russell Crowe, Ryan Gosling.
Oh, what a mix.
Greg Davies. And then he was Graham sitting there and he's like, Greg, do you have this story about when you were a teacher? And he was like, what? And he was like, the laundry? And he was like, oh God, don't make me tell that story. And Graham goes, tell Jodie Foster this story.
Yeah.
And Jodie Foster's like, what's going on?
Yeah, tell me the story. Please.
And he tells his story about how he was a grown-up. I can't tell it. Ryan Gosling is crying and just like you can see his whole body just going like just shaking. And if you watch it, because it's like Greg Davies' greatest, like it's like 12 minutes long or something, but I'm gonna search for it just to make sure I'm saying this right. It is Greg Davies. He's got a show called Taskmaster that's really good. Holy shit, we have to eventually end this podcast because I'm realizing what time it is.
Yeah, it's late now.
How I got to get up tomorrow, and I got a podcast tomorrow night that's going to be a good one, but along with a woman, Kelly Schwab, out of, there it is, Graham Norton. But he tells this story. There's him and Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
And he tells this story that, just read the title of the third one over. Helena Bonham Carter farted and wet herself in front of Greg Davies.
That sounds like a wonderful time.
Yeah. So he tells this story, and Ryan Gosling cannot stop. But there's another story later on. That's why you watch the funniest one.
Yeah.
where he tells this story, and at the end, Ryan Gosling seems like an amazing dude. Like I've seen him in interviews, and he seems like the weirdest, dorkiest dude in the world. And there's a point where Greg Davies finishes his story, and Ryan Gosling turns to him and goes, "High five, man." And Greg Davies high fives him. He was like, "Never in a million years would I ever guess that I'd be high fiving him after telling him a stupid ass story."
Right.
Something like that. It's the best. It's the best, man. This here we'll actually end on or it's your podcast. Sorry.
Nah, I ain't shit. You ain't got to apologize to me. We both know what we're doing, right?
Yeah.
Totally.
Here is my biggest artistic creative killer. These videos on YouTube.
They suck up so much of your time?
Because I will just sit and watch these. Or you can see them down here, previously watched, these tri-channel videos.
Oh, God. Reaction videos are the bane of my existence on the internet.
Oh, you don't like them?
I tend to stay away from them.
Oh, man. Because there's two that I love a lot. Tri-channel are Irish people trying shit, and it's the funniest thing in the world.
I will say, like, the ones that get the nuns or the grandmas, I will favor. But that's about it.
I will say these are good because it's usually like comedians. So they're like trying like these crazy Halloween shots, and they're like, "Oh God, who would order like?" Or they're drinking like Polish Everclear that's like 190 proof.
Because that's fun.
But like these, and the other one I like is all because he's positive energy. There's this guy Jamal, aka Jamel, that he's a black dude watching videos or listening to music that is not in his realm. He was like, I grew up on the Spinners, man. I don't know who Ram Jam is. And then he watches Black Betty, and he's just like, hell yeah.
That's
like
great.
He's so getting into it. And then he starts watching Chris Stapleton videos, and there's these other two guys, Lost in Vegas. They're the first reaction videos I ever saw. It's these two black guys, and they're watching Chris Stapleton, listen to Chris Stapleton doing Tennessee Whiskey. And it starts out, and then he starts singing, and I'm not kidding, and he's saying like 4 words, and they paused it, and they looked at one another, and they're like, he's invited to the cookout. And they just didn't play.
He can eat the ribs.
Yeah, they're like he can bring whatever he wants. Like, it's the greatest thing ever. But because it's not stupid. Like, but this is nothing but happiness and joy to me. And that kind of sucks. Because when you leave, I'm going to watch that Greg Davies.
All right. Well, let's go full circle back to this. One of my favorite YouTube things, The Hollywood Reporter has a series of roundtable discussions with writers, comedians, actors, directors, all the things. And I think I'm bothered by how cut up the dialogue is, because I know they've got all these people in a room for 45 minutes, and then they make a 35-minute video with cuts and stuff. I want to hear that whole thing uncut. Please, The Hollywood Reporter, please put these uncut things.
Can I give you just sorry to jump in?
No, go.
There was a show on IFC in the mid 2000s called Dinner for Five with Jon Favreau and 4 celebrity guests.
Ooh, yeah, I'm all for that then.
The only problem I had is they cut it down to like 25 to 30 minutes.
That's bullshit.
And I was like, no, they ate an entire meal and had dinner and had dessert, and then
Did
also
Favreau cook it?
Huh? No, they would go to restaurants.
Okay.
And then they would have drinks and cigars afterwards. This is like a 5-6 hour thing.
Right. And my distaste for that is why I do this the way I do it. But hearing the conversations with all these really high-end industry people about their craft and how articulately they explain their thought processes and all that jazz around the whole ordeal, context of the conversation, it's really enlightening. And I really enjoy hearing these passionate people talk passionately about the things that they do. And, there might be some pretext or mild pretentiousness about it because it's Hollywood stuff. But I feel as if there's pearls of wisdom that can be gleaned from all of these conversations. I think they had one with Robert De Niro and Tom Hanks, and just a very eclectic mix of folks, and it's just amazing to hear the interplay of ideas at these tables, and it's a privilege to be able to be privy to these conversations at such a high level. And if I have any aspirations as someone that presents conversational long form media, I would hope to be half as good as some of those bits of media.
Well, I tell you those because I'm trying to look. There's this guy. I think it's called. Maybe it's not Camera on Camera. It's always black and white, and it's one dude interviewing a celebrity. And it's a podcast, but it's also a video.
Yeah.
And it feels like those, but it's more one-on-one. And I can't remember what it's called. If I find it, I'll send it to you.
Well, I enjoy the group dynamic because it's usually the host and 5 other people.
Well, and I tell you, the things I love about that, even though I don't like them getting clipped out, the things I actually love most of that is there's almost always like one thing that comes out of that is just like, I am glad this is in my life.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like, one of them recently was, I'm trying to find the Tom Hanks one, where one of them was Brendan Fraser and Ki Ho Kwan from Everything Ever in Short Round.
Yeah.
And it's just like a minute-long clip, and he's saying, like, Brendan Fraser said when they met in the hallway before, they were like, we're still here.
Yeah.
And it was this beautiful moment of them just going like, holy shit, they're still there.
Yeah.
I think the Tom Hanks Roundtable one.
The one with Shia LaBeouf I really enjoyed, but Gary Oldman right there, the next one, there's a good mix. Boyega there gives a good youthful presence to that table and a good, I don't want to say like rookie point of view, but he's definitely the least senior person around the table. So seeing his response to the personalities around the table was super humbling, because he was like, guys, I'm just privileged to be here, and to be involved in this conversation is also a privilege.
Yeah.
So the fact that we're all sitting here doing this, I feel very fortunate.
That's
and Adam Driver and the first one there with Shia LaBeouf and Robert De Niro is also a really good one. I've seen most of these. Shia LaBeouf has been, is an odd character in Hollywood because he's so anti-Hollywood.
Yeah.
From my perception of his stance. But to hear him in this context, in this conversation with these people, it was really refreshing to hear his takes in contrast with everyone else's, because a lot of the people around that table are pretty well established in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And not that he isn't, but he has a really counterculture point of view on that. And the fact that they were able to talk about a lot of similar things and find a lot of parallels in each other's life experience at the same time was really nice.
I only struggle with people like him because I feel like he's trying too hard to be too outsider.
I mean, maybe he is, but
I think sometimes with me it rings inauthentic, and I just need a little nugget to get past that. Because I'm sure it's not. I'm sure he's being him.
Yeah, I enjoy the contrast.
Okay.
Of his character as to most people in this genre of society.
Yeah.
But
well,
we're all a little out there.
Well, that's why I actually like Tom Hanks, because I feel like Tom Hanks is just being Tom Hanks.
Yeah, and that part.
That's the one that I wanted to pull up. This too shall pass.
That's in this piece, and I think that's a wonderful way. And he's never concerned. There's a part where he talks about the next job.
Yeah,
and no matter how bad this happened, there's probably another thing that you could look forward to and expertly craft and do your thing to or with. And that's nice. It's so nice.
Well, and hell, I just quoted this to a guy at work today. Have you ever seen Charlie Wilson's War?
Mm-mm.
So it's not a very good movie, even though it's Mike Nichols directing, who's great. I think Aaron Sorkin wrote it. It's Tom Hanks, Julia Roberts, Philip Seymour Hoffman. Philip Seymour Hoffman needs to be talked about more, because that dude.
I agree.
That dude, and it's the weird shit of like that stupid movie of Ben Stiller and Jennifer Aniston.
There's Something About Mary.
No, the one.
No, that's not. That's what's her face, Cameron Diaz.
Yeah, whatever that film was, Philip Seymour Hoffman was his buddy, and he was comedic, and it was one of the funniest roles I've ever seen. Because they're out front, they're out in New York playing basketball, and he's just like, from downtown, and he just bricks off of it. Like, it's one of the funniest things ever.
Twisters was on TV the other day, and I totally forgot he was in it.
But Tom Hanks is kind of pulling a little bit from a speech from that where, and you can find that where he says something like, I'm going to go ahead and search this so I have it and I can come back to it because I don't want to forget. I want to watch. See, this is me. I want to watch that again.
But all that genre of Hollywood reporters media, I've thoroughly consumed and thoroughly enjoyed.
So it's this one. It's the Zen Master. And what he's saying to him is Philip Seymour Hoffman's character is CIA agent. Charlie Wilson is a senator, and it's getting money and guns to the Taliban to fight the Russians. That's the whole story of this film. So what he's talking to him about here is every once in a while he would say, "We'll see." And Philip Seymour Hoffman's character said, "Let me tell you about the Zen Master and the little boy." He was like, "This little boy's born." And they were like, "Isn't it such a great thing?" He's like, "We'll see." And he's born, and he does this, and he goes, "We'll see." And he just keeps going, and he's like, and then the boy gets a horse. And they're like, "Isn't it such a great thing?" He said, "We'll see." And then he was like, and then he gets thrown from the horse and breaks his leg. And isn't that such an awful thing? We'll see.
Yeah.
And then he was like, and then they go to war, and the kid can't go to war because he's got a broken leg. Isn't that so great? We'll see. And that's the whole point of that speech. I was like, that is, there's a longer story that I will not waste your time because it's too fucking late, about how when I was young, my dad got mad at someone else to me about, I'll tell the story because it's quick. We were playing basketball. We beat the other team. One of the kids came out, slammed himself on the couch, and started kicking the shit out of the couch and was crying. And as we're walking out the door, my dad, as he hits the door, turns around and puts his finger in my face. Remember, the finger in the face is shit's
Yeah, serious business.
And he said, "Boy, I better never see you do shit like that." Because of that one moment, if I have success, cool, I'm moving on. If I have failure, shit, I'm moving on.
Moving on.
We'll see.
Yeah.
This too shall pass. That shit entered my life when I was like 8. Because my dad was always like, "That's great that we won a game. Practice is next Tuesday."
Right, yeah, like the next one now.
He was like, "I don't give a He was like, he was just very much that way. So when I see shit like that, I think about that. Of just like, we'll see, this too shall pass. Throughout, that's why the pandemic was so unbearable to everybody. But it was just like, not having the "we'll see, this too shall pass" did not ring true in my brain at that point.
So that's why it was difficult.
Yeah, that's why it was difficult.
And ladies and gentlemen,
17 hours later.
If you will tell folks where to find you and your outputs.
Folks have heard enough of me at this point. If you want to find me online, feralgiant.com, @feralgiant/feralgiant on all social media, even LinkedIn, and the podcast app, Ramblin' Man Pod. You can go to ramblingmanpod.com, and there's links to like Apple and Stitcher and all those outbound from there. And I appreciate you for having me on. And sorry I hijacked and we ended up doing a Ramblin' Man essentially.
This was two people having a conversation on 2 different episodes of 2 different programs, which is pretty much what I felt would happen anyway. So my expectations were met, and it's fine. This is the KAAMP. That is the Knoxville Area Artist Network and Platform. I talk to creatives from the Knoxville region and slightly larger region at times. I've even talked to people from New Zealand. That's, I called Ben from New Zealand, and he was on the show. Awesome. But if you would like to support the show, the most direct way you can do that is to buy my fucking art. That is at TTW Artworks. At Instagram, there's a hyphen in there. That is the best way to monetarily support me as a human being, sovereign in society. And that is also a great way to support the podcast by putting resources where I can use them to, reach out to people and do things and have these conversations and making sure all the technical aspects of those things are covered. And I need y'all to know that I really enjoy it, and I'm very appreciative and grateful of all the things that you help me do. and do for myself and do for other people. What you need to do now is put this shit in your friends' ear holes with consent. You need to share it, like it, rate it, do all that wonderful stuff that's on your end of the spectrum. And y'all, I really appreciate it. It's been a great time having conversation today. And thank y'all for listening. And you can hit the button now.